Chapter 75. A young man who doesn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Numerous gazes turned to Qin Feng as many people shook their heads. Xue Fei's words were very persuasive. Coupled with Qin Feng's black robe and young face, Xue Fei's words were confirmed. Qin Feng's face was cold. He did not refute. Instead, he glanced at the disdainful looks and sneered. Behind Qin Feng, the Zhuo brothers' faces were ugly. If Guan Ruolan's talent was a headache for the Zhuo brothers, then Xue Fei's martial arts talent was a headache for the Zhuo family. Especially when these words had already pushed Qin Feng into the limelight. Zuosong sent the Zhuo brothers to follow Qin Feng with the intention of befriending Qin Feng. Now, Qin Feng was related to the Zhuo family's interests. Damn it, this Xue Fei really knows how to distort the truth. It's the 9 super families who are unscrupulous. They are jealous of the talents, so they are making false accusations. Especially when Xue Fei displayed such a high talent in martial art. This timing is too good. Brother Qin Feng won't be able to handle it alone. If he is trampled by Xue Fei, his reputation will be completely ruined in the future, and he will become Xue Fei's stepping stone. Zhuo Quan was worried in his heart. However, there was nothing he could do, and he could only worry in his heart. At this moment, Qin Tianjiao also finished her test. The brilliance of the jade green would spread out like a towering forest. She was a grade 8 would attribute martial arts talent. Another top 3 grade martial arts talent under the eyes of everyone. Many people shifted their attention to Qin Tianjiao. An 8th grade martial arts talent. Her martial arts talent was even better than Xue Fei's. The only flaw was that the basic attributes of the 5 elements were too ordinary and could not be compared to the mutated attribute. However, her glory was unparalleled. Among the crowd, the elders of the Lingyun sect, Taibai Mountain, Greenwood sect, Wuji sect, and other sects had their eyes lit up. At this moment, there was no one else in their eyes. They were determined to get these 2 geniuses that were rarely seen in hundreds of years. Near the formation, the tester looked at the long line and shouted, "Next!" The next one was Qin Feng. In the crowd, a figure walked towards the array. Everyone's gazes locked onto the young and thin figure. He wore a black robe, had a slightly immature face, and his eyes were filled with a stillness like stagnant water. Coupled with the black robe of a mystic cultivator, he seemed to have no presence at all. In the crowd, many people were sneering and their eyes were filled with disdain. "Qin Feng, get out of here. This is not a place where you should be. What's so great about a 15-year-old official Xian cultivator? All Stars College isn't a place where a mere first-grade Xian cultivator can behave atrociously. This is not a place where you can do whatever you want." Qin Feng, did you hear that? If I were you, I would know my own limit. Why would I bother to take the test and bring shame to myself? When he passed by Xue Fei suddenly raised his head and looked at Qin Feng. He whispered into Qin Feng's ear with a cold smile. Qin Feng looked at Xue Fei and his lips curled into a cold smile. He did not say anything. Seeing Qin Feng's cold expression, Xue Fei's handsome face revealed a trace of ridicule. "Qin Feng, I know you're not convinced, but so what? Our strength is no longer on the same level. I have a 3rd-grade martial arts talent and my future is destined to be colorful. I will become a new legend. And you, at most, have a 3rd-grade martial arts talent and are destined to stay in Shanhe City for the rest of your life. Then what if I also have a 3rd-grade martial arts talent?" Qin Feng raised his head and looked at Xue Fei as he suddenly laughed. "Young man, you sure talk big." Xue Fei did not say anything, but another voice suddenly appeared in Qin Feng's ears. A group of people dressed in luxurious clothes appeared in Qin Feng's line of sight. This group of people had an awe-inspiring aura. Just as they approached, an oppressive and majestic aura greeted them. This was an aura that only martial artists in the Meridian stage and above possessed. Qin Feng frowned. He didn't seem to have offended these people. Tang Lin sized up the black-robed youth, his eyes cold as he said, "Young man, it's okay to be arrogant, but being arrogant and ignorant will make you a laughingstock. Do you really think that third-grade martial arts talent is cabbage that grows on the ground? Young Master Su and young Master Qin are geniuses that are hard to find even in the dozens of big cities in the great Yen country." Tang Lin looked at Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao and nodded slightly, a warm smile on his face. Qin Feng understood that Tang Lin was here to rope in Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao. Climbing high and stepping on low, these people thought that Qin Feng was a soft persimmon, a stepping stone. Qin Feng sneered. "Young man, don't be unconvinced. Being able to possess martial arts talent is already 1 in 100. However, most of them are of the lower 3 grades of aptitude. Being able to possess the middle 3 grades of aptitude or even the upper 3 grades of aptitude is extremely rare." Behind Tang Lin, Elder Su Chongxing of the Greenwood sect said indifferently as he glanced at the black-robed youth with a cold smile. "When we were young, we were also like you, lawless and out of control. We thought that we had outstanding talent and could reach the heavens in a single step. We could enter a large sect and suppress many geniuses. Little did we know that the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment." The Lingyun sect's elder also led a group of white-robed martial artists over. He looked at Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao with fervent eyes before his gaze landed on Qin Feng. He chuckled with a trace of indifference and mockery. "Some people in this world are like this. They will always hit their heads and bleed before they know their own worth. You think that you can be high and mighty and have a smooth life just because you became an official mystic cultivator at the age of 15? How naive." The people present looked coldly at the black-robed youth. Xue Fei was extremely proud and frequently returned the greeting. Xue Fei recognized the origins of the experts from the various sections. His eyes lit up and he was proud of his success. "Then let's wait and see. Some people always treat sand as a treasure, but they don't know that old eyes are muddled and blinded by greed. Such people will eventually cause great trouble for themselves." Qin Feng said indifferently. A figure passed through the crowd and arrived in front of the formation map. No one paid attention to Qin Feng's words. Everyone's gaze landed on Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao. The two of them attracted all the attention in the square and gathered all the brilliance. The experts from the various sects had cordial smiles on their faces as they surrounded the two of them. Each of them tried their best to speak and throw out one heavy condition after another in an attempt to rope the two of them into their sections. In the distance, on the second floor of a restaurant by the window, Zhuosong and Master Hall looked over. Seeing this scene, Master Hall laughed loudly. "To be honest, this old man is really surprised. Being forced to this extent, with that little fellow's personality, he actually didn't explode and kill Xue Fei?" A trace of a smile flashed across his eyes as Zhuosong shook his head. "You're wrong. That brat has long wanted to kill after being bullied by these people. It's just that his state of mind is abnormal and he completely controlled his nature. This little fellow isn't the kind of person who will not retaliate after being bullied. This old man is a little worried for the sects that suddenly appeared. In order to rope in Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao, they said some things to provoke that little fellow. I'm afraid that their days won't be easy in the future." Zhuosong knew how high Qin Feng's attainments in mystic formations were. Although he was only a first-grade mystic cultivator, he could easily create many high-level mystic formations. This wasn't something that could be described as an ordinary mystic cultivator genius. This was a freak, a demon, and a guy who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Seeing that the people from the 9 great clans had offended Qin Feng to the extreme, Zhuosong was secretly delighted. "Isn't this good? It's good that they've angered that little fellow." Master Hall snorted lightly, and a trace of anticipation flashed across his eyes. He had already obtained some information from his old friend and was somewhat excited about it. After all, Master Hall was also at the peak of the Siri birth realm and was about to step into the Nirvana realm. Some things that Zhuosong could do for Qin Feng, he Hall could also do for him. Master Hall smiled amiably, but a trace of bloodlust flashed across the depths of his eyes. Glancing at the expression in his old friend's eyes, Zhuosong smiled bitterly and shook his head. Just as he was about to say something, his expression suddenly froze. In the distant square, a beam of light suddenly exploded into the sky. In the center of the light, dazzling rays of light vibrated. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. Zhuosong's eyes suddenly widened to the extreme as he pointed at the spot where the light had exploded. This usually dignified president of the Mystic Cultivator Association had his jaw dropped to the ground. Chapter 76. What a powerful light! Where did the light come from? Look, is it from the testing array diagram? Oh my God, 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11 halos. Am I dreaming? I'm dreaming too. I also saw 11 talent halos. You're not dreaming. It's really 11 halos. Someone really tested an 11th grade martial arts talent. The vast blue halo was like a surging tide, rising and falling like the tide. The thick blue brilliance soared into the sky, transforming into a blue pillar that pierced through the clouds. The thin and delicate figure was enveloped in the brilliance, as if bathed in the grace of God, as awe-inspiring as the bright moon in the sky. Beside the array diagram, several middle-aged people in charge of the testing stared blankly at the boundless blue brilliance with astonishment. Gulp! Looking at the 11 halos that surged like the tide, everyone's throats involuntarily moved. 11 halos, transcendent grade talent. His eyes were filled with shock. The leading middle-aged tester suppressed the shock in his heart and looked at the black-robed figure with fluctuating eyes as he announced loudly. Qin Feng, 11th grade water attribute martial arts talent. Qualified. Hearing the announcement, the entire square was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. The elders of the 5 great sects raised their heads mechanically and stared blankly at the black-robed youth in the center of the array diagram. On the plaza, everyone's gazes were stupefied as they looked at the black-robed youth. If Qin Feng's identity as a 15-year-old Grade 1 official mystic cultivator was shocking, then his 11th grade martial arts talent made everyone dumbstruck. Although a 15-year-old first-grade official mystic cultivator was rare, it was not terrifying. This was because if he did not have martial arts talent, his greatest achievement would be becoming a second-grade mystic cultivator. However, if this 15-year-old first-grade mystic cultivator had 11th grade transcendent grade martial arts talent, then it was truly awe-inspiring. One had to know that the Sea-Calming Venerate only had 8th grade martial arts talent back then. Now that Qin Feng had a grade 11 martial arts talent, didn't that mean that Qin Feng's future achievements would be much greater than Calming Sea supremacies? An 11th grade martial arts talent? The elders of the 4 major sects looked at each other, their faces stiff. An 11th grade martial arts talent. Everyone from the 9 superclans fell silent. In the crowd, as Yu Yao saw that dazzling figure, she had a wooden expression and felt a stabbing pain in her heart. I actually rejected such a stunning fiancé, and instead chose that embroidered pillow, Ning Yutong. Yu Yao's heart was bleeding. Only today did Yu Yao know who was the dragon and who was the worm. It was precisely because of this that the young girl was heartbroken and filled with regret. Grade 11 martial arts talent, what a scary little guy. In the restaurant, Zhuosong's eyes revealed a trace of eagerness as he watched the black-robed figure walk down from the array diagram. The smile between his brows could hardly be concealed. Transcendent grade martial arts talent, what's the big deal about an upper-grade martial arts talent? The 3 elites of Mountain River City are nothing in front of a transcendent grade martial arts talent. Maizhua clan has really picked up a big bargain this time. Song was overjoyed, his mouth almost unable to close. Lucky old man! Looking at his old friend who had lost his composure, Master Hall's tone was sour. With a touch of eagerness in his eyes, Elder Su Chongxing of the Greenwood sect appeared on the testing platform like a ghost and was the first to throw out an olive branch. Qin Feng, join our Greenwood sect. Our Greenwood sect is a famous force around Mountain River City. If you're willing to join our Greenwood sect, I'm willing to guarantee that you'll become a true disciple directly. Any true disciple in the sect will be unconditionally open to you. Su Chongxing's old face was filled with a kind smile as he looked at Qin Feng with eagerness. The conditions he threw out shocked many youths. The Greenwood sect was a famous force around Mountain River City. Many people had heard of the Greenwood sect's name for many years. In the past, when the Greenwood sect recruited disciples, many young martial artists scrambled like duck. Becoming a true disciple of the Greenwood sect in one step, eliminating the need to climb the ranks of outer and inner disciples. This was simply reaching the sky in one step. This was a good thing that many youths could only dream of. Many gazes fell on Qin Feng, the envy in their eyes almost melting him. Greenwood sect. Qin Feng was walking down from the testing platform. Hearing this, he raised his eyebrows and blinked his eyes. This old man's face changed so quickly. Just a moment ago, he was disdainful and mocking him. How did he become so friendly in the blink of an eye? Right at this moment, another figure flashed over like a tiger or leopard. A slightly hurried voice sounded. Slow down, slow down. Qin Feng, why don't you consider our Great White Mountain first? Our Great White Mountain is powerful and is one of the top sects around Mountain River City. If you're willing to join our Great White Mountain, not only can we give you the identity of a true disciple and allow you to cultivate any true disciple, but we also have a level 3 mystic master in charge. You can ask for guidance at any time. The Great White Mountain threw out an even more attractive offer. Qin Feng, don't worry. Why don't you consider our Wuji sect? Our Wuji sect has 3 cities and 12 towns. If you're willing to join our Wuji sect, this old man can guarantee that not only can you become a true disciple of the Wuji sect, but we can also give you a strategic town to establish your family. Not only was the Wuji sect willing to nurture Qin Feng, but they also gave Qin Feng special privileges to develop his family. Qin Feng, you can join our Horizon Illusory Sound Pavilion. If you join our Horizon Illusory Sound Pavilion, this old man can help you become the next pavilion master. This old man is the great elder of the Horizon Illusory Sound Pavilion and has unparalleled power. With my support, you will be the next pavilion master of the Horizon Illusory Sound Pavilion. The elder of the Horizon Illusory Sound Pavilion, Yu Qinghe, was even more ruthless. And our Soaring Clouds sect, the experts of the 5 great sects extended olive branches one after another, each of them staring at the black-robed figure with fiery eyes. Occasionally, they would exchange gazes with burning hostility. Xue Fei and Qin Tianzhao's faces were ashen. They bit their lips and didn't say anything. The conditions that the experts of the 5 great sects had offered them just now were not so generous. Qin Feng sneered. Didn't someone just say that I don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and that I'm destined to pay the price for my arrogance? Have you all forgotten? That's a misunderstanding. It's completely a petty person who misled us out of jealousy. This kind of person who distorts the truth is truly hateful. An expert of the 5 great sects explained with a smile. In the distance, the people of the 9 great clans had gloomy expressions. Curling his lips, Qin Feng glanced at the experts of the 5 great sections. He didn't say anything and turned around, his gaze falling on the 2 slightly lonely figures in the distance. Then, what about the 2 of them? Where are they? Qin Feng pointed at Xue Fei and Qin Tianzhao. The experts of the 5 great sects looked at each other and only hesitated for a moment. A moment later, one of them said coldly, How can the light of a firefly compete with the brilliance of the moon? Kacha, Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao were so angry that they almost broke the roots of their teeth. Chapter 77. Xue Fei, Qin Tianjiao, the two of you have top 3 grade martial arts talent. You are rare geniuses, and your future is limitless. These were the words of a certain expert from the 5 great sects. However, the evaluation they received now was the light of a firefly. How could they compete with the light of the moon? Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao's faces were slightly distorted due to anger. Today was supposed to be the day the two of them soared into the sky with the momentum of geniuses. However, because of Qin Feng's appearance, the situation went in the opposite direction. The reason was Qin Feng's 11th-grade martial arts talent. Today was supposed to be the day the two of them could shine brightly, but it became a day of humiliation that could not be washed away. How could the light of a firefly compete with the light of the moon? What an infuriating evaluation! If it weren't for the fact that they were in public, the two of them, who were arrogant and narrow-minded to begin with, would have already attacked. On the spot, Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao stared fixedly at the black-robed figure who was surrounded by the experts from the various sections. Their hearts burned with the flames of jealousy, wishing they could skin him alive, eat his flesh, drink his blood, break his bones, and suck his marrow. Guan Ruolin stood beside the two of them with a cold expression. Looking at the black-robed figure in the crowd, her beautiful eyes flashed with a sinister light. Looking at the two of them who were unwilling to accept the result, Guan Ruolin suddenly sneered. Xue Fei, Qin Tianjiao, the two of you don't need to care about the 5 great sects' opinions. Those 5 great sects are nothing but fence-sitters. Compared to the 9 great clans of Shanhe City, they may not be much stronger. With the aptitude of the 3 of us, it will be easy for us to enter a sect stronger than the 5 great sects. Finishing her words, Guan Ruolin's eyes revealed a trace of killing intent as she looked at the figure and sneered. Not to mention, I hope that country bumpkin can choose a sect to join. And? Hearing this, Xue Fei and Qin Tianjiao's expressions changed. Then, as if they thought of something, they smiled and nodded. Sister Ruolin is still the most considerate. What do you mean? In the crowd, Yu Yao, who was chatting with a few young ladies from the 9 great clans, heard this and a trace of doubt appeared in her beautiful eyes. Thank you, seniors, for your generosity. Junior doesn't have much fate with the great sects, so please forgive me. Qin Feng rejected the offers of many sections. The reason was very simple. The conditions offered by these sects were not enough to move him. Qin Feng did not care about the status of a true disciple of these great sects at all. As for imparting true inheritances to him, Qin Feng had read a lot of books. Not to mention a mere true inheritance, Qin Feng had already grasped at least 3 of the legendary martial arts manuals. Moreover, the most important reason was that there was a future super sect in All Stars College waiting for Qin Feng to join. Xingchen School was the hidden first-rate sect behind All Stars College. It was a future super first-rate sect, a supreme sect that hid the ultimate secrets of the ancient star gods. Xingchen School was a hidden opportunity after entering All Stars College. This was a secret that only a few people knew about. After entering All Stars College, there were many trials and tests. If one was outstanding enough, they would be able to attract the attention of the experts of Xingchen School hidden behind All Stars College. They would have a great chance of entering the sights of the experts of Xingchen School and be brought into Xingchen School. Xingchen School was a huge first-rate sect. According to Qin Feng's knowledge, Xingchen School had 28 constellation peaks. Any one of these constellation peaks could easily sweep away the 9 great clans and 5 great sects in Mountain River City. One could only imagine how terrifyingly powerful that sect was. Qin Feng had long since set his sights on Xingchen School. Naturally, Qin Feng looked down on the Soaring Cloud sect, Everlasting sect, Greenwood sect, and 9 great clans, which were not even third-rate sections. The experts of the 5 great sects looked at each other, their eyes filled with regret. Grade 11 Martial Arts Talent. This kind of martial arts talent was as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. It was a pity that they could not be used by the sects. A wise choice. Beside the testing array diagram, the people in charge of All Stars College exchanged glances. When they saw Qin Feng reject the 5 great sects' invitation, their eyes revealed traces of smiles. As experts of All Stars College, the people in charge naturally knew of the existence of Xingqian School. Although All Stars College did not explicitly prohibit the disciples of All Stars College from choosing a sect, once a disciple of All Stars College chose to join another sect, they would forever lose the opportunity to enter Xingqian School. This was a hidden opportunity. Many geniuses would often lose this great opportunity because of a moment of impulse. Seeing Qin Feng's unexpected choice, Xue Fei, Qin Tianjiao, and Guan Ruolin were secretly resentful. Qin Feng actually rejected the 5 great sects' invitation. Could it be that Qin Feng knows of the existence of Xingqian School? Guan Ruolin murmured, her beautiful eyes filled with disappointment. She bit her lips so hard that it almost broke, and dark red blood flowed out. Impossible. He's just a lucky kid from the countryside. How could he know such a secret? Qin Tianjiao stared at the figure. She did not believe that Qin Feng, with his status, would know of the existence of Xingqian School. That's right. If it weren't for the fact that some of our family's elders had entered Xingqian School, it would be impossible for us to know of the existence of Xingqian School. This matter has already been listed as the top secret of our family. Even with our status, we were only informed of it a few days ago. How could Qin Feng know of the existence of Xingqian School? Xue Fei's eyes were like a poisonous snake. The huge psychological gap caused this handsome young man's face to be covered with a layer of cold frost. So what if he knows of the existence of Xingqian School? This is Shanhe City now. Guan Ruolin's beautiful eyes were filled with a sharp cold light. She was completely filled with killing intent. You're just a martial artist of the 4th heavenly layer. No matter how high your martial arts talent is, you still haven't matured. Shanhe City is the world of our 9 great families. Anyone who threatens our 9 great families must die. If you want to enter All Stars College and Xingqian School, it depends on whether you're lucky enough to do so. Guan Ruolin viciously stared at the black-robed young man's figure. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. Qin Feng, who was in the middle of a discussion with the 5 great sects, suddenly felt an extremely cold killing intent from the crowd lock onto him. It's her? Turning around, Qin Feng followed the killing intent and swept his gaze across the crowd. His gaze landed on a cold and elegant young girl dressed in white. His gaze just happened to meet a pair of cold eyes that didn't have a trace of warmth. Guan Ruolin? Qin Feng looked at the white-robed young girl in the crowd with a cold expression. Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a trace of a cold smile. Qin Feng remembered this young girl. Previously, when this young girl was tested to have a level 6 ice attribute martial arts talent, she even made a provocative throat-slitting gesture at him. Guan Ruolin was undoubtedly a member of the Guan family. Qin Feng had even seen this young girl beside the level 2 mystic cultivator, Lu Shi. This young girl was a gray-robed mystic cultivator trainee. All this time, Guan Ruolin had been hostile towards him. Ever since Qin Feng injured Guan Xiaoping, the Guan family had been targeting him. First, they suppressed him, then they assassinated him. Again and again. It's Guan Ruolin. Looks like the Guan family's patience has reached its limit. The Zhuo brothers had been guarding Qin Feng. When they saw Qin Feng's strange expression, they immediately followed his gaze and saw Guan Ruolin in the crowd. The Zhuo brothers had worried looks on their faces. They were well aware of the capabilities of the 9 great clans. In Shanhe City, if the 9 great clans were determined to deal with a warrior of the 4th celestial layer, it would be a piece of cake. even if this person had the protection of All Stars College and the Mystic Cultivator Association. There should be more tonight. Chapter 78. Damn the Guan family. Is there no end to this? Qin Shou cursed angrily as a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. As a subject, the subject had to work hard for the emperor and die for the emperor's humiliation. Ever since Qin Shou and Qin Gang followed Qin Feng, they had become entwined with Qin Feng for good or ill. After Qin Feng became a Grade 1 mystic master, and was tested to have a transcendent grade martial arts talent, the happiest person wasn't Qin Feng himself. Instead, it was Qin Feng's two followers, Qin Shou and Qin Gang. Now that Qin Feng was in danger, Qin Shou and Qin Gang couldn't eat or sleep in peace. Their hearts were filled with hatred. If young Lord succeeds in his cultivation one day, he will definitely come back and exterminate the damn Guan family. Qin Shou said hatefully. There's no need to wait for that day. The Guan family won't be able to survive for long. A trace of haze flashed in his eyes, but Qin Feng's face was calm. Qin Feng's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the beautiful girl in white. Zhuo Song had already prepared all the spiritual materials to set up the 8 Desolation Annihilation Void Mystic Formation. He was just waiting for the best opportunity to exterminate all the experts of the Guan family in one fell swoop. When the time was right, this ancient family that had been in Shanhe City for thousands of years would be turned into dust and become a thing of the past. Those who failed the test walked to the right. Those who passed walked to the left. Wait for the third test. All Stars College's test was extremely strict. There were very few who could enter the second test, and even fewer who could pass the second test. There were about 200 youths who came to take the test. After the test, there were only 20 or so who could stay on the left. Less than 10%. Those who could stay were all elite. Each of them had their own extraordinary abilities. The 20 or so youths gathered together like cranes in a flock of chickens. In the square, 80 to 90% of the gazes were gathered on these 20 or so youths, making them envious. Most of the gazes were on Qin Feng. An 11th grade martial arts talent was too shocking. Many of the gazes were still filled with shock. The 9 superclans are indeed the 1,000-year-old clans in Shanhe City. They have a strong foundation. Qin Feng didn't care about the various gazes that were directed at him. Qin Feng's gaze swept across the outstanding youths around him. Qin Feng discovered that most of these youths were from the 9 great clans. Needless to say, their leaders were the 3 elites of Shanhe City, Qin Tianjiao, Su Fei and Guan Ruolin. In addition, there were also elites from the Ning, Yu, Song, Zhou, and other families. Although these people were not as dazzling as the 3 heroes of Mountain River City, they could not be underestimated. Qin Feng was familiar with a few of them. One of them was Zhou Yuxian from the Zhou family. This young girl had a 6th grade mutated Thunder attribute martial art talent. The Thunder attribute was a mutated martial art attribute. Moreover, it was one of the most powerful mutated martial art attribute. It could be said that her potential was extraordinary. In his previous life, Qin Feng was of the lightning attribute, but now, due to a freak combination of factors, he had become the basic water attribute. In addition, the Yu family's yellow-clothed young girl, Yu Hong, had a 7th grade earth attribute martial art talent. Her martial art talent was second only to Su Fei, who had a 7th grade wind attribute martial art talent. What was worth mentioning was that Yu Yao had also successfully passed the second round of tests. This surprised many people in the Yu family. Yu Yao's martial art talent was not high, just a 4th grade. However, Yu Yao's martial art talent was exceptionally rare. It was actually above the mutated attribute. It belonged to one of the most powerful attributes, the destruction attribute. This was a mutated metal attribute that was extremely destructive. When the results of the tests came out, it attracted the attention of many people. For a moment, the scene was unparalleled. The experts from the 9 great clans monopolized the majority of the spots. Only a few youths came from the small family branches around Shanha City. The most eye-catching one was a commoner-clothed youth from a poor family. This youth was called Li Zhuang. He looked to be about 13 or 14 years old. He wore a pair of poor pants and had a thin body. His sallow face had a trace of stubbornness. He was taciturn and always had his head lowered. Qin Feng noticed Li Zhuang because he was the only one present who did not come from a family. Li Zhuang had a 5th grade wood attribute martial art talent. On the plaza, the second round of tests ended before noon with the elimination of the last participant. Everyone stood in a row in front of the testing platform, waiting for the third and final round of tests of All Stars College. On the platform, a middle-aged man in green with a cold expression walked out from among the few people in charge of All Stars College. This middle-aged man was the Uncle Yi who was acquainted with Xue Fei. When this middle-aged man in green walked out, Xue Fei's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. He glanced at Qin Feng, who was not far away, and his eyes flashed with a trace of a cold smile. The middle-aged man in green with a sharp gaze swept past each of the youths. When his gaze landed on Qin Feng, it paused for a breath before moving away. A faint voice came from the air. "Everyone, my name is Yi Ruiz. I am in charge of All Stars College's 3rd round of tests. The fact that you were able to enter All Stars College's 3rd round of tests shows that your aptitudes are outstanding. However, this is not enough." Yi Rui's tone suddenly became serious. Far from enough. Outstanding martial art talent can only ensure that you have a higher starting point. However, no matter how high your starting point is, if you don't have a martial will that is as hard as iron, you are still trash. Yi Rui's gaze suddenly became sharp as he shouted sternly. "There are many disciples from All Stars College, but we have never had trash. We will never allow trash to exist." Yi Rui's sharp gaze swept past, and a threatening sharpness pierced through one's soul. Many youths couldn't help but take a step back. Qin Feng's spiritual sense was extremely strong. The instant this sharp intent pressed down, he felt as if a tide had crashed into a reef. His heart felt as if it was rumbling. "Humph!" Qin Feng groaned as his expression changed. Yi Rui's strength was beyond his imagination. Bang! Beside Qin Feng, the others took a few steps back in a sorry state. Some even knelt on the ground, making a fool of themselves one after another. Other than the 3 elites of Shanha City, only Qin Feng and Zhou Yuxian were able to stand in their original positions without moving. Yi Rui's gaze flashed with a trace of shock. In fact, he wanted to intimidate Qin Feng and beat this talented youth. He purposely added a trace of true power into the latter's body, but he didn't expect Qin Feng's martial will to be so strong. Yi Rui's tone softened as he retracted his gaze and said indifferently, "Now, I will announce the requirements for the 3rd test of All Stars College. The focus of this test is martial will. If you can withstand my aura for 30 breaths, you will pass. Then, the test will begin now." The moment he finished speaking, Yi Rui's took a step forward, and a surge of majestic aura spread out with a loud bang. The formless aura was like a tsunami, and the instant his voice fell, it rushed towards the youths who were caught off guard. Bang! The first wave of aura rushed over. Immediately, someone was caught off guard and was sent flying by the terrifying aura, turning into a gourd and rolling on the ground. Bang! Qin Feng's spiritual sense was abnormally strong. The instant the aura rushed over, he transformed into the black tortoise suppressing the sea, and a huge force firmly suppressed his lower body, preventing him from being swept away by the aura. This was a battle of spirit and will. Once there was a trace of slack, the terrifying aura would break the spirit dam, and one would be eliminated. Early stage of the 4th sky of martial path. Middle stage of the 4th sky of martial path, late stage of the 4th sky of martial path. In a few breaths, Qin Feng could clearly feel Yi Rui's aura rising step by step, and the pressure on his body was getting stronger and stronger. As promised, this is the second update, slightly late. From now on, there will be 2 updates every day. Chapter 79. The invisible aura was like a substance, pressing down from the air. Countless streaks of lightning appeared in the compressed air. It was terrifying. After one breath, the aura rose to the early stage of the 4th heavenly layer. After 11 breaths, the aura shook and rose to the middle stage of the 4th heavenly layer. After 21 breaths, the aura shook again and the pressure rose to the late stage of the 4th heavenly layer. Qin Feng did not move. His eyes were filled with a wisp of sharpness. His clothes fluttered as he stood in the same place as if he was bathed in the wind. His body was straight like a sharp sword piercing through the clouds. After 30 breaths of time, the aura of the peak late stage of the 4th heaven of the martial path had reached its peak. Qin Feng did not think much of it. Qin Feng himself was a late-stage martial artist of the 4th heaven of the martial path. The 3 heroes of Shanhe City were expressionless and very relaxed. But not far away, a few early-stage 4th heavenly layer youths were sweating profusely. They were almost kneeling on the ground under the pressure of the aura. In the crowd, Yu Yao was struggling to hold on. The young girl's eyebrows were wet with sweat, her black hair was messy, and her beautiful eyes were filled with an unyielding stubbornness. The most eye-catching one was Li Zhuang, who was wearing a gray linen robe and a pair of trousers. This young man, who came from a very low background, had only entered the 4th heavenly layer. At this moment, his face was pale and he almost knelt down. However, he clenched his teeth and his eyes shone with an unyielding light. That determination to go against the current and fight against the heavens was moving. With the early stage of the 4th heavenly layer, bearing the aura of the peak of the 4th heavenly layer was like carrying a mountain. This kind of spiritual pressure was the best test of one's heart. After 31 breaths, Yi Rui's took another step forward. Qin Feng felt the pressure on his body increase by another level. The early stage of the 5th heavenly layer aura unscrupulously broke out and pressed down on every youth on the testing platform. Pucci, Yu Yao and Li Zhuang both spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their bodies swayed as they struggled to hold on under the monstrous aura. Early stage 4th heavenly layer of the martial path. Withstanding the pressure of an early stage 4th heavenly layer of the martial path for 30 breaths, Yu Yao and Li Zhuang pass. On the side, one of the examiners nodded and announced. At the same time, the tester made a grabbing motion with his 5 fingers. Yu Yao and Li Zhuang were pulled out of the testing area by an invisible force. As soon as they were dragged out of the testing area, the 2 of them immediately fell to the ground and spat out another mouthful of blood. Congratulations to the 2 of you for being the first to complete the 3rd round of the test. Now that the 2 of you have been accepted by All Stars College, you can rest at the side and wait for the arrangements of All Stars College. The tester glanced at the 2 of them before his gaze landed on the other people in the field. Passed! Yu Yao and Li Zhuang gasped for breath, but when they heard Huang Xiaolong's words, they couldn't hold back their joy. The magnificent army crossed the single-plank bridge, and countless horses fell off. At this moment they finally reached the end. In the crowd, many gazes fell on the 2 of them. Their gazes were filled with envy and jealousy. The temptation of entering All Stars College had already reached a new level. In the square, many well-dressed young men and women who witnessed this scene were overshadowed. Qin Feng's starting point had just begun. For him, the 3rd round of the test started from the late stage of the 4th heavenly layer. 20 to 50 breaths was the duration of his test. After 31 breaths, the pressure suddenly increased, and several mid-stage 4th heavenly layer martial artists began to sway. After 35 breaths, Yi Rui's aura gradually reached the peak of the early stage 5th heavenly layer. Pucci, Beside Qin Feng, two mid-stage fourth heavenly layer martial artists spat out a mouthful of blood. Their eyes were scattered, and their state of mind was lost. In an instant, the violent aura sent them flying high into the air, turning them into rolling gourds. Ningxiu Qin Ichuan results: 25 breath. Eliminated. All Stars College's people stepped forward and took away the two eliminated people. Many people shook their heads, their eyes filled with regret. There were also those who rejoiced in their misfortune. Trash. Qin Tianjiao's expression wasn't too good. She looked at one of the youths with eyes full of anger. Among the two eliminated people, one was from the Shanhe city's Qin clan. After 41 breaths, Yi Zerui's aura once again rose to the midstage of the fifth heavenly layer. The pressure on Qin Feng's body gradually increased, and he felt a slight pressure. Bang! Another person lost his state of mind and was eliminated. Many gazes fell on Qin Feng. Qin Feng didn't hide his late-stage fourth heavenly layer. However, to the surprise of many people, not even a drop of sweat could be seen on Qin Feng's forehead despite the pressure of the middle stage of the fifth heaven of the martial path. There are 9 heavenly layers in the martial path, and each layer is a heavenly layer. To be able to withstand the aura pressure of one level is already considered extraordinary. To be able to withstand the aura pressure of 2 levels is definitely extraordinary. Qin Feng seems to be very relaxed. Someone in the crowd exclaimed. Hearing this, Qin Shou was happy and couldn't help but say proudly, "This is nothing. Our young master even defeated the Yunling giant tiger, an ancient species comparable to the 6th heavenly layer of the martial path. This is nothing." In the crowd, a dignified old man at the 7th heavenly layer of the martial path shook his head. This is different. The aura pressure is a double interrogation of one's mental state and martial path. It directly confronts one's nature. This kind of interrogation is far more difficult than killing enemies of a higher level. After a few breaths, a pale girl at the mid-stage of the 4th heavenly layer of the martial path was blown away by the violent aura. Qin Feng's expression didn't change. In Qin Feng's opinion, this round of the All Stars College's examination was the easiest. As a former powerhouse half a step away from the ascendant state, Qin Feng's mental state had reached a state where he wouldn't bat an eyelid even if the sky fell and the earth cracked. Qin Feng had developed a kind of martial will that could swallow thousands of worlds and dominate all directions. His only shortcoming was his cultivation level. After 51 breaths, the aura was strengthened to the late stage of the 5th heavenly layer of the martial path. The aura pressure of one level above Qin Feng's face was still expressionless. He passed. The crowd was in an uproar. They only felt that Qin Feng was too relaxed. This kind of performance was really amazing. Qin Feng didn't withdraw immediately. His body was still standing proudly. His eyes were like ancient swords, piercing through the clouds. Yi Rui's sharp gaze swept over Qin Feng. Qin Feng's performance was too eye-catching. The pressure of one level above Qin Feng didn't seem to affect him at all. Again, Yi Rui's competitive spirit was aroused. After 61 breaths, he took another small step forward. There was a fluctuation in the air, and a wave of invisible aura surged out. The aura of the early stage of the 6th heavenly layer of the martial path. Qin Feng's brows furrowed slightly with a trace of seriousness. Poochie! The sound of several people vomiting blood rang out. A few more people were eliminated. Still not enough. Good boy. Yi Rui's gaze was fixed on Qin Feng. For the first time, a trace of sweat began to appear on Qin Feng's forehead. However, he had not reached his limit yet. After 71 breaths, Qin Feng's forehead was sweating more and more. This was much more difficult than dealing with the ancient Yunling giant tiger. It was as if he was facing a terrifying demon hunter. The aura of the middle-aged man in green was undoubtedly much more terrifying than the hunter. After 81 breaths, Qin Feng seemed to be carrying a mountain on his back. There were cracking sounds coming from his body. His body's endurance had reached its limit. A few people around him couldn't resist and were eliminated one after another. I'm almost at my limit. Qin Feng secretly gritted his teeth. After 91 breaths, Yi Rui's eyes sharpened. He took a step forward, and the aura of the early stage of the 7th heavenly layer of the martial path suddenly erupted. The aura was so substantial that it caused the weather to change. Thunder and lightning roared in the air. The terrifying aura bombarded the black-robed figure like a tidal wave. Qin Feng's figure rushed out like a cannonball. The friction between his feet and the ground left a few inches deep mark. He only stopped after 100 steps. Enough! An expert from All Stars College frowned. He clenched his fist, which turned into an invisible hand that covered the sky. Suddenly, he forcefully grabbed Qin Feng's figure. Qin Feng, your result exceeded 30 breaths. You have passed all 3 rounds of assessment of All Stars College. Welcome to All Stars College. The second round was later, at night. Chapter 80. With the arrival of late autumn, the bustling mountain river city became a little cooler. The pedestrians on the streets gradually wore thick clothes and leather jackets, and the last few withered leaves on the big trees were also torn down by the bleak autumn wind. All Stars College's third round of examination came to an end under everyone's attention, but the entire mountain river city was still immersed in the lingering charm that didn't dissipate for a long time. After a period of fermentation, this matter became more and more intense. In the Mystic Association's Heavenly Policy Mansion. Under the candlelight, the Heavenly Policy Mansion was especially lively today. Carriages and horses rumbled in front of the mansion, and guests came and went in an endless stream. All of the people who came and went were dressed luxuriously. All of them were polite and had a strict bearing. Obviously, they were all from wealthy families. Standing in a corner, a few beggars looked at the bustling Heavenly Policy Mansion with reverence and disgust animatedly. This Heavenly Policy Mansion is indeed worthy of being the Mystic Association's place. It's only been a while, but I've already seen several big shots in Mountain River City. The wealthy Li family in the south of the city, Manor Master Zhao of the Begonia Manor, and several famous mystic masters from the Mystic Association. These are all big shots who are awe-inspiring. Look, there seems to be a scarlet carriage coming out of the Heavenly Policy Mansion. The 2 horses pulling the carriage are actually mutated scarlet flame horses. The horses' hooves are like fire, and the horses' manes are like raging flames. That's Lord Li Yan's carriage. A beggar who knew his stuff exclaimed. Lord Li Yan is a famous alchemist in Mountain River City. His status is incomparably honorable. I once saw Lord Li Yan from afar at the entrance of the 9 great clans, and he left a deep impression on me. He's an alchemist master that even the 9 great clans have to be respectful to. I heard that most of the pills that come out of Mountain River City every month are made by this master. Beaming with exultation, a beggar spoke clearly and logically, attracting the attention of many other beggars. For a moment, this beggar was in high spirits, and his eyes revealed astuteness. Why would such a big shot appear here? A beggar couldn't help but ask. You don't know. The little beggar from before had a mysterious look on his face. Seeing that he had successfully attracted the attention of many beggars, his face became even more smug as he spoke mysteriously. I heard that the genius who was recruited by All Stars College is living in the Heavenly Policy Palace. Most of these lofty big shots are here for him. All Stars College. A group of beggars exclaimed in admiration and envy. That's really lucky. I wonder which genius will stay in the Heavenly Policy Mansion. Isn't the Heavenly Policy Mansion the place of the Mystic Association? You've asked the right person. I know the ins and outs of this matter the best. I heard that All Stars College only accepted 7 people this year. Among them are the three elites of Shanhe City, Qin Tianjiao, young Master Su, Su Fei, and the eldest daughter of the Guan clan. As for the other four, I heard that two of them were taken by the Yu clan from the northern part of the city. One of them is the eldest daughter of the Yu clan, Yu Hong, and the other is the seventh daughter, Yu Yao. The other is young Master Li Zhuang. Could it be that the person living here is... A group of beggars widened their eyes and couldn't help but cry out. That's right. The last one is the most dazzling young Master Qin Feng. Speaking of which, isn't that young Master Qin my friend? The little beggar said with a smile of exultation. He was the one who took the initiative to greet Qin Feng, Duan Xiaolu. Duan Xiaolu you? Bragging? A few beggars sneered with disbelief. Duan Xiaolu, what kind of person is young Master Qin Feng? He's a genius that even the big shots of Shanhe City want to curry favor with. You and I are lowly beggars, so how could you know such a person? Duan Xiaolu, if you want to brag, you have to find someone else. If you say that you're the shopkeeper of the Drunken Immortal restaurant, we might believe you. But if you say that young Master Qin is a giant among people, that's too ridiculous. A group of beggars looked at Duan Xiaolu with disdain. Duan Xiaolu was so angry that he stomped his feet. I'm telling the truth. We even chatted together before. He even said that if I need help, I can ask him for help at any time. A few beggars sneered at Duan Xiaolu for overestimating himself and indulging in wild fantasies. The few beggars shook their heads and left. Duan Xiaolu hesitantly glanced at the Heavenly Policy Mansion. A trace of hesitation flashed across his eyes. He was a prideful person. Soon, Duan Xiaolu stomped his feet and left with the group of beggars. Duan Xiaolu and the rest didn't know that the scene in the corner was seen by an elegant figure in the darkness. This figure's eyes moved slightly, and a moment later, a sloppy beggar walked out of the darkness. What was surprising was that this beggar looked exactly the same as Duan Xiaolu, who just left. Duan Xiaolu looked at his own attire with a strange gaze. A moment later, the corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile. The heavens are really helping me. Humph. Qin Feng. Duan Xiaolu's eyes flashed with a trace of bloodlust. Soon, Duan Xiaolu regained his composure and walked towards the Heavenly Policy Mansion. Looking at his expression, no one would doubt that he wasn't a beggar. Stop right there. Who are you? How dare you create the Heavenly Policy Mansion without permission? Tell young Master Qin Feng that his friend Duan Xiaolu is looking for him. The Heavenly Policy Mansion was brightly lit. After sending off wave after wave of visitors, Qin Feng sat on the main seat with a tired expression. His slender and fair fingers rubbed his swollen forehead. Qin Feng smiled bitterly. Even after going through the 3 rounds of the All-Stars College's test, he wasn't as tired as he was now. He played with a silver-white token in his hand. On the token, there were stars that were emitting a faint coldness. Under the night sky, this token seemed to be able to absorb the radiance of the stars in the sky and emitted a faint silver-white light. Grabbing the token in his hand, under the moonlight, he could see 2 large words engraved on it. Stars. It looked very luxurious and pleasing to the eye. Qin Feng, this is the All-Stars College's token. 3 days later, use this token to rush to the city gate. At that time, someone will naturally come to pick you up and bring you, the chosen students from the various cities, to the All-Stars College to participate in the final ranking trial. I wish you a good result in the ranking trial. Remember, the ranking trial is extremely important. Recalling the profound words of the middle-aged tester before he left, Qin Feng looked at the token in his hand and was a little entranced. Ranking trial. I wonder what kind of mysteries there are in this ranking trial. That old man, Zhua Song, seemed to have mentioned this ranking trial just now. However, I was busy greeting those distinguished guests who came to visit and didn't hear it clearly. However, I vaguely remember that the old man seemed to have said that the higher one's ranking was, the more benefits one would receive. Those who ranked at the top could even choose to live and cultivate in a blessed land with abundant spiritual qi. Qin Feng thought inwardly. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Spirit Mountain blessed lands were not commonly seen. They contained the purest spiritual qi. If one cultivated in a Spirit Mountain blessed land, their cultivation speed would often be several times faster than other places. To be able to cultivate in a Spirit Mountain blessed land was something that many martial artists dreamed of. Why did those large sects like to establish their sects in Spirit Mountain blessed lands? Wasn't it all because of the extremely pure spiritual qi? Just this alone was enough to tempt countless martial artists. Qin Feng was no exception. If he could cultivate in a Spirit Mountain blessed land, even if it was the lowest grade blessed land, he was confident that he would be able to break through to the pulse condensation period in a short period of time. However, this kind of blessed land was limited and was usually monopolized by large sections. Moreover, the pure spiritual qi that was produced in a Spirit Mountain blessed land was limited. It couldn't withstand the consumption of too many people, thus it became an extremely rare resource. Dong dong dong. At this moment, the sound of knocking on the door interrupted Qin Feng's thoughts. Qin Shou's voice sounded from outside the door. Young Master Duan Xiaolu wants to see you. He says he has something important to discuss with you. Second update. Chapter 81. When Qin Feng walked out of the room, the red-clothed maid, Hong Lian, walked over with a smooth white coat and said with concern, Young Master, the night wind is cold. Put on a coat. Qin Feng took the coat and looked at the red-clothed girl. The red-clothed girl's cheeks blushed, and she lowered her head shyly. Her long hair covered half of her face with a birthmark. In the past few days, as Qin Feng's status rose, the yellow-skinned little girl Hong Lian also grew up. Her body gradually grew and her skin regained its white and delicate luster. She became more and more attractive. Her figure was graceful, her waist was alluring, and her eyes were like water. Her eyes flashed with smoke from time to time. She was tall and had a hot body. Her black hair was like clouds. She was a seductive beauty. In the dark night, looking at the red-clothed girl from afar, she was as beautiful as fire. Qin Shou, who was standing by the side, glanced at Hong Lian. A trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. It was hard to imagine that the ugly and shriveled little girl, who had followed behind Qin Feng earlier, would actually become so beautiful. Hong Lian isn't even 15 years old yet. She's already so charming. In a few years, my goodness. Qin Shou lowered his head and didn't dare to look anymore. He could only praise his young master's good fortune. It's just that birthmark on Miss Hong Lian's face. If she didn't have that birthmark. Qin Shou only glanced at it once. He didn't dare to look anymore and raised his head. Young master, that Duan Xiaolu is still waiting outside. Do you want to see him? He said he has something important to talk to you about. Duan Xiaolu? It's already so late. Did he say what it is? Qin Feng looked at the sky. After sending off all the visitors, it was already past midnight. Maybe this Duan Xiaolu came to ask for food or is sick. Qin Shou guessed. Don't make wild guesses. Qin Feng shook his head. Qin Feng decided to meet the future demon lord. Let's go see him. Young master, you seem to think highly of that little beggar. There doesn't seem to be anything noteworthy about that little beggar. The little maid's limpid eyes looked at Qin Feng. Seeing the smile on Qin Feng's face, she couldn't help but ask. The little maid was genuinely happy that her young master was able to enter All Stars College. He is a very special beggar, a unique beggar. Qin Feng's eyes revealed a trace of a smile as he dotingly rubbed the little girl's hair. His gaze was indifferent. Unique? Hong Lian rolled her eyes at Qin Feng and brushed her messy hair behind her ear. Her beautiful eyes were moved. Young master, that's right, This Duan Xiaolu seems a little different today? Suddenly, Qin Shou, who was leading the way, thought of a detail when he saw Duan Xiaolu. How is it different? Qin Feng paused and raised his head. A strange light flashed in his eyes. One had to know that there were many people who wanted his life now. None of the animals dared to approach him. They seemed to be afraid of him? All the animals ran out of the courtyard. Qin Shou frowned and said in confusion. Qin Feng looked at Qin Shou thoughtfully. Qin Feng knew that this follower of his had a special talent that allowed him to communicate with animals and understand their language. Even the slightest movement in the courtyard couldn't escape his notice. The animals don't dare to approach? Could it be killing intent? Qin Feng thought to himself. Animals have the most sensitive instincts. They will always be the first to sense danger and take countermeasures, just like an earthquake or a volcano eruption. To be able to scare away all the animals in the courtyard, this killing intent isn't ordinary. Although Duan Xiaolu will be called the Demon Lord in the future, he doesn't seem to have this ability now? Qin Feng narrowed his eyes. It seems that an uninvited guest has come tonight. Let us properly entertain this uninvited guest. When Qin Feng and the others arrived at the hall, they saw Duan Xiaolu sitting on a chair and drinking tea. Duan Xiaolu was wearing patched clothes. His hair was dirty and his face was dirty. His face was dark and there was a chicken coop on his head. When he saw Qin Feng appear, he immediately put down his teacup and said excitedly, "Big brother Qin Feng, you're finally here. Congratulations on being accepted by All Stars College. From now on you can call for wind and rain. You're a real big shot in Shanha City." With a smile on his face, Qin Feng sized up this Duan Xiaolu and immediately felt that something was wrong. Qin Feng's spiritual sense was extremely powerful. Although this Duan Xiaolu had the same face, the same clothes, and even the same gaze, there was one thing that was different. Although Duan Xiaolu was a beggar and was lowly, there was a trace of arrogance in his bones. Duan Xiaolu never thought of himself as a beggar. The Duan Xiaolu in front of him was a complete beggar. "Speak, who are you and why are you pretending to be Duan Xiaolu?" Qin Feng did not care about Duan Xiaolu's attempt to get close and directly asked. Qin Feng's sleeves hung down. His slender and white fingers were somewhat conspicuous under the light. One of his hands was already touching the hilt of his sword. After a moment of silence, Duan Xiaolu's enthusiastic expression turned cold. She did not make any excuses. Instead, she looked at Qin Feng with a pair of cold eyes and said calmly, "Where did I expose myself?" Soon, Duan Xiaolu shook her head and said casually, "Forget it. No matter where you exposed yourself, I've had enough of pretending to be a dirty and smelly beggar. I'll kill you as soon as possible. And let's end this quickly. Otherwise, it will be troublesome if we attract the experts of the Mystic Association." However, to kill a little brat at the late stage of the fourth firmament of the martial path, one breath should be enough. Duan Xiaolu said seriously. The killing intent in her eyes made Qin Feng feel a great sense of terror. Before he could finish his words, in the next moment, an ice-cold chill had already appeared in front of Qin Feng. A mournful cold light pierced Qin Feng's face. The sharp cold light seemed to be able to freeze the soul. That cold light was unimaginably fast. In an instant it appeared in front of Qin Feng. The pressure of death appeared in his heart. Qin Feng's hair stood on end and his soul seemed to be frozen. This was actually a Meridian stage assassin, and her first move was a swift and fierce killing move. Qin Feng's pupils stared at the cold light. His face was distorted. Under this power, he didn't even have time to react. In an instant, two silhouettes abruptly appeared before Qin Feng. A gust of wind blew, tearing through the air like two illusions. As the two roars of rage rang out, two streams of earthen yellow light transformed into an iron wall that blocked Qin Feng's path. Boom! The entire hall was shaking, and the shock waves from the collision had turned some of the furniture in the hall into fine powder, which then fell to the ground. The two figures retreated a dozen steps before stopping. The two figures were pale. Even their eyebrows were covered in frost. Their lips were purple, and they looked like they had suffered great injuries. These two were the Zhuo brothers. They were both in the meridian stage, and they were 2 against 1, but they were defeated in one move. Qin Feng's face was gloomy. His scalp was numb. He had underestimated this assassin. The hall was a mess. The entire courtyard was covered in cold air. Snowflakes were floating in the air. The ground was covered in a layer of cold frost. A wave of cold air swept over. This was the phenomenon caused by the eruption of the ice attribute true power. You want to kill Brother Qin Feng in front of us? I'll kill you! Zhuo Ming roared. His body exploded with earthen yellow true power as he pounced forward. Brother Qin Feng, we can't stop her. We are not her opponent. Run! Beside him, Zhuo Quan hurriedly shouted at Qin Feng. The situation was extremely bad. You want to leave? Leave your life behind. 1,000 layers of snow. With a loud bang, the 1,000 layers of snow exploded. A solid block of ice was blasted out and fell to the ground. Ta, ta, ta. In the darkness, footsteps came from afar. An elegant white figure walked out of the darkness. Under her feet, Zhuo Ming had already turned into a block of ice. It was a woman. She was dressed in a white palace dress. Like a white cloud, she was beautiful beyond compare. However, this beautiful woman in white looked like an Asura god of death that had just emerged from the depths of hell. The beautiful woman stared at the remaining two and smiled charmingly. Now I need to correct myself. Killing you ants will take 2 breaths. Chapter 82. It's so cold. Has winter come early? The hall was filled with fluttering snowflakes, and the white cold wind was whistling. Qin Feng stretched out a slender white hand and opened his 5 fingers. A cold snowflake fell on his hand, and a trace of extreme cold entered his palm. This trace of extreme cold seemed to be able to freeze all the meridians in his body. Strands of immemorial innate qi revolved with difficulty and began to assimilate this trace of extreme cold energy. To Qin Feng's surprise, after assimilating this trace of extreme cold energy, the immemorial innate qi easily reached the second tidal wave realm. The turbulent internal breath surged in his meridians like a vast ocean. Qin Feng would have been very happy with this kind of breakthrough on any other day, but now he couldn't smile. As far as the eye could see, the beautiful woman in white, who was wrapped in fluttering snowflakes, was already dozens of feet away from him. Her murderous aura was overwhelming. Even the snow of late winter is not as cold as this. On the side, Zhuo Quan smiled bitterly. He glanced at his twin brother who had turned into a block of ice, and a trace of bitterness flashed in his eyes. He said to Qin Feng with a sad smile, Qin Feng, if I, Zhuo Quan, die here today, please tell my grandfather that I didn't disappoint him and didn't disgrace the Zhuo family. Qin Feng raised his head and was silent for a moment. He glanced at the black-clothed Zhuo Quan and said slowly, Zhuo Quan, if I, Qin Feng, can survive and reach that step one day, I will do my best to resurrect you and your brother, and guarantee the glory of the Zhuo family. Very good. Zhuo Quan laughed, and his laughter shook the hall. He suddenly hit his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood essence, and his aura suddenly rose to another level. A trace of blood appeared in Zhuo Quan's eyes. Zhuo Quan had used a terrible self-mutilation secret art, and his cultivation had soared by a small realm in a short time. Are you done with your will? A pleasant voice came, and the woman in white walked over step by step. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a playful look like a cat playing with a mouse. Zhuo Quan raised his head, and his eyes were full of blood light. He stood in front of Qin Feng and grinned. He pointed at the woman in white and said, Brother Qin Feng, if I die here, remember not only to avenge me, but also kill this damn woman for me. Remember to count me in. All right, I promise you. Qin Feng looked at the beautiful woman in white with a strange look in his eyes as he agreed. What a lecherous thief! What a charm! The beautiful woman in white's bright eyes were filled with hope. There was no anger in her beautiful eyes. Instead, she smiled sweetly, looking extremely charming. However, the cold air circulating around her body became even more vigorous. It's a pity that one of them is reckless and the other is still wet behind the ears. The woman in white's figure flashed like lightning. Her sleeves fluttered in the wind, and her snow-white sleeves revealed her snow-white wrist. She waved her hand, and a burst of cold air gushed out from her sleeves. The cold air poured out and turned into countless ice needles, like a rainstorm, that poured down on Qin Feng. The thin ice needles were more powerful than anything else. Wherever they passed, even the thick pillars were easily penetrated. The cold air swept past, and the holes were frozen. Looking at this scene, Qin Feng's soul gave birth to a chill. Earth mystic yellow, earth yellow true power. Looking at the ice needles that filled the sky, Zuoquan's eyes turned red. He roared, and his earth yellow true power burst out. The Zuo brothers had comprehended the earth attribute heaven and earth seed, and were very good at controlling the earth attribute. At this moment, they were activating the earth force, and the floor burst open. Zuoquan controlled the rocks and blocked in front of them. Bang bang bang! Countless ice needles poured down like raindrops on the 5 to 6 foot thick rocks, turning them into sieve. Rumble! The rocks broke apart. Suddenly, the fragments were like sharp blades, riddling the courtyard with thousands of holes. 1,000 peaks and 1,000 rocks, mountain strength, fist suppressing the heavens. Seeing this, Zuoquan roared again. His body rushed forward like a cheetah, and punched towards the woman in white. The huge yellow fist seemed to have the strength of a mountain. In the void, a yellow light burst out like a divine mountain. When this fist blasted out, it had the power to shake mountains. Even the air was blown apart by this fist. If it were any other martial artist in the 9th heavenly layer, they could only close their eyes and wait to die under this terrible fist force. You're overestimating yourself. I've always heard that the Zuo family's 1,000 Peaks mountain god fist is very fierce. It is said that when this fist art is deshang, it can draw upon the power of the chaotic god mountain to form the 5 divine mountains of heaven and earth. But now, it seems that it's only SOSO. Take a look at my 1,000-year ice seal, 1,000 miles of ice, 10,000 miles of snow. The woman in white sneered and thrust her palm out. Endless cold air was generated out of nowhere, and a power that was close to a divine ability covered the entire hall, turning Zuoquan and his fist into a huge block of ice. Qin Feng, your bodyguards have all gone to hell. It's your turn now. After casually freezing the 2 pulse condensation period powerhouses, the woman in white's icy gaze fell on the expressionless Qin Feng in the hall. Her beautiful eyes seemed to stare at a prey that was about to reach her mouth. The cold air that filled the heavenly policy palace turned into a land of snow. It's my turn? You're really slow. With a sneer, Qin Feng glanced at the Zuo brothers that had been turned into ice, and his eyes revealed a deep anger. Now I'm regretting giving you an extra breath of time. For a slippery little guy like you, living an extra breath makes people feel uncomfortable. The woman in white's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of coldness as she smiled sweetly. It's a pity for your talent. An 11th grade martial arts talent, a 15-year-old first-grade mystic master, and an invitation from All Stars College. However, killing a genius like you is really something worth remembering. Can you guess what I'm thinking? Qin Feng suddenly laughed. I don't want to know what you're thinking at all. I have no interest in the thoughts of a dead person. The woman in white shook her head. Her figure was already several zhang away from Qin Feng. This was a very dangerous distance. The woman in white's eyes were cold and sharp. With a point of her finger, a cold light suddenly shattered. The aura of death enveloped Qin Feng's soul. You should have asked. Qin Feng suddenly shouted. Qin Feng suddenly shouted. 10-directional abyss annihilation formation, activate. The cold light froze on Qin Feng's forehead. The woman in white's expression changed slightly. She felt that something was wrong and decisively retreated. At the same time, she waved her palm. The vast and mighty frozen palm energy blasted toward the black-robed young man. Such a fierce palm energy even froze the void. However, the continuous ice crystals suddenly froze when they were less than a few feet away from Qin Feng. It was as if the air in front of them was frozen by some invisible barrier. The ice was hard to break. The power of a mystic formation. Not good. I fell into a trap. The woman in white's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of unhappiness. She quickly turned around and retreated. However, the woman in white stopped in an instant. A trace of shock appeared on her beautiful face for the first time. She raised her head and saw the blue sea and blue sky. The sky was high and far away. She actually landed on the surface of the sea. How was this the courtyard of the Heavenly Policy Mansion? Where is this place? The woman in white's face was gloomy. She was no longer as calm as before. Welcome to the place I created, the Abyss Purgatory. This is the first layer of the Abyss, the Blue Sea Abyss. You can call me the Abyss Devil Ancestor. You can also call me the second Devil Ancestor. Oh no, it's the first Devil Ancestor now. Second update. Chapter 83. To call himself the second demon ancestor, Qin Feng was simply flattering himself. In his previous life, there were countless demons that surpassed him. However, he was worthy of being called the abyssal demon ancestor. Qin Feng was the creator of the endless abyss. His life diagram was the 10-directional abyssal calamity array. After Deshang fused with his life diagram, it became the endless abyss. In his previous life, the inner world he cultivated was the endless abyss. Qin Feng was the original demon ancestor of the endless abyss, the creator. However, when he passed through time, the endless abyss was destroyed by time and space in order to protect his soul. Finally, it returned to its original form. The endless abyss turned into chaos, once again transforming into the abyssal demon diagram, hiding in the depths of Qin Feng's soul. However, the abyssal demon diagram was once a perfect little world. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. It was more than enough to trap a pulse condensation period martial artist. This was Qin Feng's final life-saving card. He wouldn't reveal this card until the last moment. Of course, the most important thing was that opening the abyssal world was too great a burden on Qin Feng. With his late fourth heavenly stage martial arts boundary, even if he sacrificed all of his flesh and blood, he still wouldn't be able to open the endless abyss. Even with the support of the Xuanwu divine pill, he could only last for 30 breaths of time. Moreover, if it weren't for the white-clothed woman being too close to Qin Feng, she might not have been sucked into the endless abyss by Qin Feng. Qin Feng's eyes were cold. If there weren't so many restrictions, he wouldn't have had to watch the Zhou brothers sacrifice themselves. Demon ancestor, you really boast shamelessly. A mere fourth heavenly stage martial arts brat dares to call himself a venerable ancestor. No matter where this place is or what treasure there is, with your mere fourth heavenly stage martial arts cultivation, you won't be able to last for long. Once I split open this place, not only will you die, but this world will also be mine. The sea was turbulent and surging, the waves towering to the heavens. At a glance, it seemed endless. However, the real area was only 100 miles wide, and the outside was just an illusion. After the initial shock, the white-clothed woman quickly regained her composure. She looked around at this world, her eyes becoming brighter and brighter, unable to conceal her joy. The white-clothed woman's cheeks flushed red as she excitedly looked at this unfamiliar place. The beautiful woman in white faintly guessed that this might be a small world that had just been created in the primal chaos. However, the more she guessed, the more incredulous she felt. A martial artist at the fourth heavenly layer actually had such a supreme treasure. If she could obtain this small world and refine it, then wouldn't she be able to reach the heavens in a single step and become a nirvana realm cultivator? A great rebirth realm cultivator was an overlord of a region. They were respected as ancestors, and countless cities like Mountain River City were gathered under their command. It's really an opportunity delivered to my doorstep. The beautiful woman in white was overjoyed. She immediately gathered all the true power in her body and tried to destroy the heaven and earth, taking the opportunity to refine it. The endless abyss trembled violently. The ice-cold aura around the beautiful woman in white robes surged violently. She struck out with her palm, and the endless coldness in the depths of the void was about to pierce through the blue sea abyss. "How dare you? You've fallen into my endless abyss, yet you still want to take over my endless abyss." Deep within the abyssal demon diagram, Qin Feng coldly watched as the beautiful woman in white attacked the abyssal demon diagram again and again. The abyssal demon diagram violently trembled in the depths of his soul, almost unable to suppress itself. This wasn't because the abyssal demon diagram wasn't strong enough, but because its master's cultivation was too low. A fourth heavenly layer of the martial path couldn't even display a billionth of its strength. Qin Feng was helpless about this. Although his talent was excellent, his starting point was too late. From the time he had awakened until now, it hadn't even been a month. Qin Feng frowned. The damage to the abyssal demon diagram was too severe. Even the first layer of the blue sea abyss was forcefully activated by Qin Feng. The other areas were still in a state of being forcefully sealed off. If the second layer of the lava abyss was activated, this white-clothed woman wouldn't even have the qualifications to resist and would be captured. However, if he wanted to restore the endless abyss, the conditions were extremely harsh. He needed to find some special spiritual objects to activate it. The first layer was the blue sea abyss. If he wanted to truly develop the power of the blue sea abyss, he had to find a high-grade water attribute spiritual object that contained a trace of water attribute origin. However, spiritual objects were rare, and spiritual objects that contained water attribute origin were even rarer. Bang bang bang! The blue sea abyss violently trembled, and the entire space was on the verge of collapse. More than half of the blue sea abyss was frozen by ice and snow. Humph! With a cold look in his eyes, Qin Feng's figure suddenly appeared in front of the beautiful woman in white. The beautiful woman who was attacking the blue sea abyss paused. Looking at the black-robed youth who suddenly appeared, her face revealed a trace of shock. She realized that she couldn't capture Qin Feng's movement trajectory. Qin Feng seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Thousand-year ice seal art, freeze all things. The beautiful woman in white suppressed the waves in her heart and gathered all the true power in her body to form a palm attack towards Qin Feng. This palm attack condensed all the strength in the beautiful woman in white's body. With this attack, a vast amount of cold air erupted, like the profound cold that had been condensed in the depths of an endless iceberg for billions of years. The beautiful woman in white's eyes flashed with a trace of confidence. She believed that even if this palm attack couldn't kill Qin Feng, it would be enough to severely injure him. The full power attack of the third minor realm of the Meridian's condensation stage. Even if it was a sea reincarnation realm powerhouse that had touched upon a trace of the power of space, facing this attack would be injured. As long as she could injure him, she was confident that she could capture Qin Feng alive and force Qin Feng to hand over the refining method of this world. Then, she could obtain this small world. However, in the next moment, the confident expression of the beautiful woman in white froze. Qin Feng only raised one hand, and a white slender palm pressed against the air. Suddenly, an indescribable force blocked the endless ice-sealing power. The beautiful woman in white froze, and even moving her fingers became abnormally difficult. An invisible force froze her body. What kind of power is this? The beautiful woman in white was aghast. This is a spatial lock. After comprehending the world seed and cultivating true power, one must fuse with the power of space in order to cultivate the sea of reincarnation space. This is a unique ability of a sea of reincarnation realm powerhouse. A black-robed figure walked down from the air. The seawater beneath his feet surged, and as he stepped down, the seawater would surge up and form a staircase. With a faint sneer, Qin Feng waved his hand. This invisible force was born from the void, covering the entire abyss. Qin Feng could summon it with a single thought. Power of space? The beautiful woman in white's face paled. As a meridian's condensation stage powerhouse, she had a deep understanding of the terror of the power of space. Qin Feng smiled lightly and looked at this charming beauty. He stretched out a hand and gently lifted the latter's smooth and round chin as he said frivolously, "You can also call it a domain ability. This unique ability is something that all Meridian's condensation stage martial artists yearn for even in their dreams. The entire blue sea abyss can actually be seen as a planar domain. This is my territory, and I am the master. Here, no one can resist the majesty of the god of creation." Qin Feng looked down at the beautiful woman in white from above. From the corner of his eyes, he glanced at the plump and straight *** under the beautiful woman's snow-white tube top. His breathing became slightly hurried. In that snow-white silk dress, the beautiful woman in white, Su Ya's mature body was wrapped in it. Under the dress, a pair of healthy and slender legs with soft curves, well-proportioned and delicate. "What do you want to do?" The beautiful woman in white's eyes flashed with a trace of panic. The beautiful woman forced herself to stay calm. She raised her beautiful face and calmly said, "I know that you are only at the 4th level of the martial path. You can't use such a powerful ability. I don't know what price you paid to be able to temporarily use this ability, but you won't be able to hold on for long. I advise you not to go too far. Otherwise, when I escape, I will tear you to pieces. I have to say, you've really made me look at you with a whole new level of respect." Qin Feng was slightly surprised. This beautiful woman in white was truly fierce. With just a thought, she was able to guess his current situation. With a martial artist at the 4th level of the martial path, controlling the blue sea abyss was far too difficult. If it weren't for the black tortoise divine pill providing him with an endless supply of energy, the blue sea abyss would have already been destroyed by this beautiful woman. Even so, 30 breaths of time was his limit. Once 30 breaths of time passed, he would suffer a backlash. His body would be sucked dry of blood essence, and he would turn into a dried corpse. At that time, even the black tortoise divine pill wouldn't be able to save him. Qin Feng remained calm and collected. His body slowly approached from behind her, and he finally pressed himself against her back. Both of his hands were holding onto her soft, jade-like hands. "You guessed right, but why is your heart beating so fast?" Cough cough, it's been a long time since I've written this kind of plot. I'm a bit rusty. Everyone has been working hard, so I'll write some benefits. But I can't break the rules. Just a little bit. Finally, I hope you can recommend me. The second part is a bit later, at night. Chapter 84. I Will Kill You. The white-clothed woman's beautiful face was red. It was unknown whether it was from anger or embarrassment. Who was she? She was the eldest daughter of the Su family, one of the top 10 beauties of the Yen kingdom. She was also the matriarch of the Guan family, one of the 9 great families. She was dignified and elegant. She was respected by countless Guan family members. When had she ever been violated like this? Moreover, it was a youth who was the same age as her daughter. But at this moment, she could only let the black-robed youth hold her. She could not use the power of the pulse condensation stage. She was tightly restrained. Helpless, desperate. At this moment, the white-clothed woman, who had always been high and mighty, showed a trace of hesitation in her eyes for the first time. Desperate? Did you forget what you said just now? Kill us in one breath? Qin Feng sneered. He tightly held the woman's waist, not allowing her to escape. Let go of me, thief! Su Ye's beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Her heart was in turmoil. Good chance. Qin Feng took advantage of Su Ye's unstable state of mind to mobilize the power of the blue sea abyss. It turned into an aqua-blue mark and imprinted it on Su Ye's spiritual altar. Streaks of blue light converged on Su Ye's spiritual altar, forming a strange, icy blue imprint with a trace of supreme majesty. Abyss mark. This was created by Qin Feng. It was used to control the Abyss race's origin mark. Once it was imprinted, it would be transformed into a creature of the Abyss by the power of the Abyss. Their life and death would be under the control of Qin Feng. Pung! The aqua-blue mark was branded into the depths of the white-clothed woman's soul inch by inch. Suddenly, the aqua-blue mark shook and was forcibly shaken out. What is this thing? The white-clothed woman's mind cleared. She broke free from the feeling of shame and anger. She looked at Qin Feng warily. Just now, there was an inexplicable force trying to invade her mind. This was very similar to some mind-controlling abilities, as expected of a pulse condensation stage powerhouse. Her will is strong. Qin Feng looked at this scene and frowned slightly. I only have 20 breaths of time. Could it be that I can only kill this woman and not control her? Seeing the alert look on the beautiful woman's face, Qin Feng decided to give it another try. If he could subdue this woman, she would definitely be useful in dealing with the Guan family. Nothing, just to repay the hatred of your killing. Qin Feng's heart is ruthless, no matter what, this woman looks good. Qin Feng, you little bastard, let go of me. Su Ye panicked when she sensed the strangeness behind her. Little bastard? Qin Feng's eyes were filled with a tyrannical look. Previously, he had been assassinated. Now, he had witnessed the death of the Zhou brothers with his own eyes. The big hand grabbed the snow-white and supple Luo Chang and pulled with force. Rip! Along with a cry of alarm, the torn cloth fluttered in the air. A mature, plump, and beautiful body appeared in front of Qin Feng. Qin Feng was slightly stunned. Under that fiery gaze, Su Ye felt her mind go blank. Now is the time. The look in Qin Feng's eyes quickly cooled. He had been looking for an opportunity all this time, and he instantly saw this fleeting opportunity. Qin Feng's spiritual force connected with the source of the abyss. In an instant, a trace of blue brilliance appeared and fell on Su Ye's spiritual altar. A trace of the power of the abyss turned into an abyss mark and rushed into Su Ye's mind, instantly merging with it. As this trace of power of the abyss entered, Qin Feng immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at Su Ye, who was still in a daze, and with a thought, an invisible force retreated into the void like seawater. With a wave of his sleeve, the blue sky and white clouds dissipated. The entire blue abyss turned back into an abyss magic diagram and returned to the depths of his soul. As soon as the abyssal demon diagram was removed, Qin Feng's face instantly turned pale. With a bang, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. His four limbs were sore and a numb feeling of powerlessness surged from his four limbs. Qin Feng lay on the ground without a care for his image, panting heavily. The price of opening the abyss magic diagram was far greater than Qin Feng had imagined. A wave of weakness came from his body, and even moving a little was extremely difficult. What made Qin Feng's heart ache the most was that he discovered that the black tortoise divine pill in his dantian had shrunk by more than half. In just 30 breaths of time, the black tortoise divine pill had shrunk from the size of a longan to the size of a cardamom. Nearly half of the black tortoise divine pill's medicinal efficacies had been consumed. Heartache. Qin Feng fiercely glanced at the beautiful woman who had exposed her delicate figure and was almost naked. Ah! Suya suddenly woke up and let out an angry cry. Her beautiful face was flushed red. Looking at Qin Feng lying on the ground, she gnashed her teeth. Qin Feng, I will tear you to pieces. Her eyes were cold, without any warmth, and a surging aura of ice and snow erupted from Suya's body. With a wave of her hand, a cold void current that could split rivers appeared in her palm, but in the next moment, Suya let out a pitiful cry and fell to the ground. An uncontrollable pain rose up from her soul, making her wish she was dead. Qin Feng lay on the ground, coldly looking at Suya, who was rolling on the ground in pain. Save your breath. After being marked with the abyss mark, you can't kill me. Qin Feng, what did you do to me? Suya resisted the pain and bit her lower lip. Her beautiful eyes stared at Qin Feng, wishing she could swallow this black-robed youth alive. No one. It's just that from today onwards, I am your master and you are my slave. If I tell you to go east, you can't go west. If I tell you to warm my bed, you can't get out of bed. Qin Feng lazily laid on the ground and raised his head. Seeing Suya's face instantly turn pale, Qin Feng was overjoyed. It had to be said that controlling such a beautiful and noble woman gave Qin Feng a twisted sense of pleasure. Qin Feng, even if I die, I won't be your slave. Suya clenched her teeth and gathered her strength to attack Qin Feng. But after taking just a few steps, she lost all her strength and fell to the ground. Now that you have been integrated with the power of the abyss, you can't kill the abyss ruler. Qin Feng tilted his head and looked at the distressed woman in white. Seeing a strange light flash in the beautiful woman's eyes, Qin Feng coldly sneered. Don't even think about committing suicide. After being marked with the abyss mark, even if you commit suicide, your soul will be captured by the abyss and eventually be reborn in the abyss. The abyss is not a good place. It is indeed a place of depravity and darkness. Once you fall completely, you will be worse off than death. After you are reborn, you might not be as beautiful as you are now. Perhaps you will become an ugly four-legged monster, or some disgusting abyss vicious beast, or perhaps you will become a promiscuous abyss sea monster. Suya's face instantly paled. She bit her lips and a fierce determination flashed in her eyes. Little thief, don't think you can enslave me like this. After I commit suicide, my soul will collapse. Even if my soul is destroyed, I will not allow you to enslave me. Chapter 85. Seeing the determination on Suya's face and the strange look in her eyes, Qin Feng quickly raised his head and stopped her. Don't be in such a hurry to shatter your soul. Listen to what I have to say, it won't be too late for you to die. What do you want to say? Suya's face was indifferent. Now that she had let go of everything, there was nothing to be afraid of. However, Suya's heart was somewhat unwilling. She was a pulse condensation stage powerhouse, and she had schemed to deal with a fourth heavenly layer youth. Not only had she failed to kill him, but she had also fallen into his hands and become his slave. Qin Feng's eyes swept over Suya's expression. He slightly frowned and lightly said, I'm only advising you to think clearly. Once you shatter your soul, it will completely scatter and disappear from the world forever. Everything you have right now will turn to ash, and not a single drop will remain. Suya's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of hesitation, but she resolutely said, So what? At least it's better than being humiliated, enslaved, and humiliated by you. Humiliate. Qin Feng's eyes looked at Suya's exposed and alluring body with a profound gaze. Suya's body suddenly felt cold, and she suddenly realized that her clothes were still half undone. She quickly covered her chest with her hands and angrily glared at Qin Feng. But like this, her tall and straight snow-white body appeared even more turbulent, as if it wanted to burst out of her clothes. Worthy of being called a young woman, this body. Qin Feng's heart was restless. He had already tasted meat, and his body was hungry for more. No, I can't let such a beautiful woman commit suicide. Qin Feng's mind turned to some bad ideas. Suya, you don't have to worry. I, Qin Feng, always like to win people over with virtue and never like to force them. You can rest assured that I won't force you to do anything you don't want to do. Qin Feng's mouth was full of lies. Humph, you think I'll believe you? Suya's beautiful face sneered. Although she said this, the resolute look in her eyes had already loosened. Although Suya was a smart woman, the smarter she was, the more she didn't want to die. Qin Feng took in Suya's expression and was secretly delighted. He propped up his tired body and slowly dragged his weak body to lean against a pillar in the hall as he continued to speak. You can choose not to believe me, but the choice is in your hands. Although I can control your life and death, I can't control your will. If I force you to do something you don't want to do, it won't be too late for you to collapse your soul then. Suya carefully pondered, her eyes rippling. Qin Feng was right. Although Qin Feng could control her life and death through that strange abyss mark, he couldn't control her will. If she didn't want to, she could crush her soul at any time. Suya's expression relaxed. Suya didn't know that this was actually Qin Feng's trap. Qin Feng was very good at manipulating people. As an old demon, he was well versed in this Tao. One had to know that all taboos, rules, standards, and defenses could be broken through by slowly sneaking in. As long as he had a good design, he would take it one step at a time. He could slowly nibble away at it until he finally swallowed it whole. Qin Feng took in her expression. Seeing that she had taken the bait, he immediately began to dispel her concerns and continued to speak. Think about it again. I'm only a martial artist at the late fourth heavenly layer, and you're a powerhouse at the pulse condensation period. Even if I wanted to be rude to you, I'm afraid it wouldn't be easy. Qin Feng was telling the truth. He had confirmed it with that woman last time. A pulse condensation period martial artist's body was terrifyingly powerful. Even if he were to lie in bed without moving, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Last time at the riverside, if that woman hadn't been seriously injured and unconscious, Qin Feng might not have been able to take advantage of her. Even so, he had been suffering from back pain for several days afterward. Qin Feng's words caused Suya's beautiful eyes to brighten, and she completely relaxed. Suya looked at Qin Feng, her eyes carrying a trace of relief. When this look fell into Qin Feng's eyes, it suddenly changed. Qin Feng was furious. Pa! What kind of look is that? You're looking down on me. The pulse condensation period is amazing. When I break through to the pulse condensation period, I'll definitely beat you 100 times, 100 times. But don't be happy too early. Qin Feng's face was gloomy. His voice changed, and his eyes fell on the Zhuo brothers who had turned into ice. Qin Feng's eyes carried a rare trace of sadness. The Zhuo brothers' kindness had moved him. If the Zhuo brothers had fought to the death, Qin Feng might not have been able to summon the abyssal demon diagram in time to suppress Suya. Qin Feng's cold eyes fell on Suya's body, and he coldly said, "The Zhuo brothers died because of you. They died in order to protect me. I can't not seek justice for them. Little friend Qin Feng is right. My Zhuo family's people cannot die in vain. No matter who it was that killed them, they must give this old man an explanation." Suddenly, an icy cold voice sounded in the hall. A fat figure suddenly appeared in front of the two people. He wore a fat black robe with large sleeves that hung down. His snow-white hair was as red as a baby's, but there was a terrifying electric light surging in his eyes. As his eyes fell on the two giant blocks of ice, there was a trace of sadness that couldn't be concealed. As he appeared, the air in the hall seemed to freeze. An indescribably terrifying aura suppressed the entire hall, making it so that no one could summon the will to resist. Zhuosong had arrived quickly. As soon as he noticed the sudden change, he rushed over with all his strength. However, he was still a step too late. Zhuosong, it's you. Su Ya's beautiful face paled, and her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of fear. Zhuosong's strength had somewhat surpassed her imagination. Lady Guan, this old man didn't think that you would think so highly of this old man's 2 grandsons that you would personally kill them. Zhuosong's eyes fell on the 2 blocks of ice, and his eyes were full of affection. However, his words filled the entire hall with a chill that couldn't dissipate. Su Ya's skin was cold, and a terrifying pressure of death arose in her heart. She glanced at the frozen Zhuo brothers, and said after a moment of silence, "They are not dead, but their vitality is temporarily frozen." Zhuosong said furiously, "What's the difference between that and death?" Zhuosong's killing intent soared, and the entire hall began to distort. Some of the remaining tables, chairs, and broken furniture were turned into fine powder and disintegrated under this huge force. The power of space! Qin Feng's eyes flashed a trace of light. Although Zhuosong was in a rage, he still controlled his strength well and didn't affect him. Qin Feng had recovered some strength, and he struggled to stand up. He had done everything possible to prevent Su Ya's soul from collapsing. He couldn't let Zhuosong kill them. Su Ya's face was pale. Under Zhuosong's pressure, her delicate body trembled. This huge gap in strength made her almost unable to summon a trace of resistance. Seeing this, Qin Feng suddenly opened his mouth and said, "Old man Zhuo, please calm down. Although the 2 Zhuo brothers are frozen, it's not like they can't be saved." "What? They can still be saved?" Zhuosong suddenly turned and looked at Qin Feng with bright eyes. As the qi dissipated, Su Ya heaved a sigh of relief. She looked at Qin Feng with gratitude. If Qin Feng spoke, he might have been killed by the raging Zhuosong. But hearing Qin Feng's words, Su Ya frowned. No one knew the situation of the Zhuo brothers better than Su Ya. Su Ya was very clear about the tyranny of her family's frozen true power. One must know that the frozen true power, even among the countless ice-attributed true power, was ranked among the top in terms of power. The Zhuo brothers were now frozen in ice. The cold qi had already invaded their internal organs, and their vitality was completely frozen. They were in a state of life or death. The Zhuo brothers were indeed not dead, but they were at the brink of death. In the frozen black ice, although the 2 brothers' vitality was frozen and temporarily did not die, the cold qi would slowly erode their vitality. Once their vitality was completely erased, it would be the time for the 2 brothers to die. To save the 2 of them, unless there was a strong martial artist who could remove the cold qi that had invaded their internal organs. But the 2 brothers' vitality was already connected to the cold qi. Once the cold qi was removed, their vitality would also disappear. Unless they could find a martial artist with extremely high attainments in the Ice Dao to help. It was possible. To be able to do this, even in the entire Great Yen Kingdom, there were not many. Mountain River City did not even have one. This point, Zhuosong was very clear. The gazes of the 2 landed on Qin Feng, clearly filled with suspicion. Qin Feng slowly stood up from the ground. His eyes swept across the 2 of them with a smile. "You don't have to be suspicious. Others may not be able to save the 2 of them, but I have my ways. Ordinary people would not be able to do this, but his Jade Sea Abyss could easily do it. But because he used the Black Tortoise Divine Pill to open the Jade Sea Abyss, it was now sealed again. To truly open the first layer of the Jade Sea Abyss, he had to find a high-grade water-attributed spiritual item. Second update. Chapter 86. The abyss of the Azure Sea was an abyss plane that contained the water attribute. It could easily absorb the cold energy from the 2 without harming their lives. Qin Feng expressed his thoughts. Zhuosong was silent for a moment before he said, "You mean, as long as we find a high-grade water attribute spiritual item, we can save Quan and Ming That's the general idea." Qin Feng laughed. In fact, finding the spiritual item was only the first step. To save the Zhuo brothers, they needed a martial path divine ability. To practice this martial path divine ability, they needed to be at least in the meridian stage. It was very complicated. Zhuosong's eyes flickered, but he did not speak. Qin Feng felt that the murderous intent on Zhuosong was gradually dissipating. "It's done," Qin Feng said in his heart. Qin Feng knew that the main reason why Zhuosong was forced to endure was not because he could save the Zhuo brothers. It was just to give Zhuosong a way out. The main reason was Su Ya's identity and her value. If he wanted to exterminate the Guan family, it would be much easier with the help of a traitor like Su Ya. Qin Feng glanced at the Zhuo brothers who were frozen in 2 ice blocks and said, "With Zhuo Quan and Zhuo Ming's current condition, they should be able to hold on for 10 years. Within 10 years they will be fine. After 10 years, I am confident that I can find the spiritual item to save them. However, during this period you must protect their bodies." Zhuosong nodded and looked coldly at Su Ya. Soon, someone came and carried the Zhuo brothers away. As for the Zhuo brothers, the Zhuo family would naturally take care of them. Qin Feng did not need to worry. The next step was to exterminate the Guan family before leaving Mountain River City, take revenge, and eliminate future troubles. The conflict between the Guan family and Qin Feng was irreconcilable. This assassination was a wake-up call for Qin Feng. Qin Feng decided that he could not wait any longer. He had to create an opportunity to completely eliminate this threat. "Old man Zhuo, it's up to you now." Qin Feng looked at Zhuosong and said, "Little friend Qin, everything is ready." Zhuosong smiled coldly. "Now we just need Madame Su Ya's cooperation, and that will be enough." "What are you trying to do?" Su Ya felt that something was amiss from their conversation. "You don't need to know, you just need to cooperate well," Qin Feng sneered. Su Ya raised her eyebrows as a trace of anger flashed across her face. "What if I'm not willing?" "If you don't want to, then there's no need for you to live," Qin Feng sneered. "You!" Su Ya was furious. A martial artist at the 4th firmament actually dared to threaten her. However, Su Ya did not dare to make a move. Su Ya's face was ice-cold, and the faintly discernible danger in the depths of her soul was constantly warning her. "Qin Feng, Su Ya, will kill you sooner or later." Su Ya's heart was filled with hatred. In the end, Su Ya chose to give in. Of course, the main reason was that Zhuosong's request was very simple, which was to bring Zhuosong into the Guan family. Although Zhuosong was a sea reincarnation realm expert, Su Ya did not think that Zhuosong could do anything. The Guan family was a big family that had been entrenched in the Mountain River City for thousands of years. Although a sea reincarnation realm expert was terrifying, the Guan family still had the trump card to contend against a sea reincarnation realm expert. Su Ya guessed that Zhuosong might have infiltrated the Guan family to find out some information or some treasure. Zhuosong would not dare to go overboard. Seeing that Su Ya finally agreed after hesitating for a moment, Qin Feng smiled. The matter was settled. Su Ya did not know why Zhuosong infiltrated the Guan family, but Qin Feng was very clear about it. In fact, Zhuosong infiltrated the Guan family for one thing, which was to find an opportunity to set up the core of the 8 Desolation Annihilation Void Mystic Formation. Then, he would take the opportunity to sacrifice the formation and eliminate the Guan family's experts in one go. The 8 Desolation Annihilation Void Mystic Formation came from Qin Feng, and it was also a deal between Qin Feng and Zhuosong. Qin Feng had already imparted the profound mysteries of the 8 Desolation Annihilation Void Mystic Formation to Zhuosong. This time, Zhuosong had a very high chance of success. Once he succeeded, Zhuosong would be able to become a Nirvana realm expert and become a big shot. Even if he failed, the Guan family would also be destroyed by the backlash of Zhuosong's failure. What Qin Feng was currently distressed about was how to find a high-grade spiritual item that contained water attribute origin. If he could open the Abyss Magic Diagram, it would bring him unimaginable benefit. The Abyss Magic Diagram was a divine item that he condensed with his cultivation in his previous life. If he could successfully activate this divine item, Qin Feng would have another life-saving trump card. The Jade Sea Abyss was only the first layer of the Endless Abyss. However, even though it only contained a trace of water attribute origin, it still had many unimaginable miraculous effects. Being able to save the Zhuo brothers was just a side benefit. Most importantly, with the help of the trace of water attribute origin in the Jade Sea Abyss, Qin Feng might have a chance to return to the origin and use the origin of the Jade Sea Abyss to nurture the innate Black Tortoise Divine Body. The innate Black Tortoise Divine Body was a fiend god physique that surpassed the 12th grade of martial arts talent. The 12th grade of martial arts talent seemed to be quite high at the moment. It could surpass everyone and occupy a certain advantage. However, with the arrival of the Golden Era, the heaven and earth origin chi would form a tide and sweep across. Under the extremely rich heaven and earth origin chi's bathing, countless geniuses would be born. The 11th grade of martial arts talent seemed to be outstanding at the moment. However, in a few years, the 11th grade of martial arts talent would only be able to show off in the beginner's village. Once they appeared in the outside world, compared to the group of children of fate, they would only be abused. Qin Feng clearly knew how fierce the competition would be after the Golden Era. The children of fate were all mass-produced, and the heaven and earth were directly responsible for the wholesale. Needless to say, there were also the peerless geniuses who survived the ancient era, the children of fate from the previous eras, or the direct descendants of some supreme great emperor. That would be an unimaginable era of great competition. There had never been an era with so much heaven and earth origin chi that it could condense into a substance. It could even materialize into fortune gold coins, fortune gold ingots, and fortune treasures. After the Golden Era arrived, all of this would become a reality. If someone was at the door of a house, they might pick up a fortune gold coin and become a child of fate in the blink of an eye. From then on, they would sing loudly and kill everyone. If someone was lying in bed and sleeping, they might be smashed by a fortune gold ingot and become a child of fate. From then on, they would soar into the sky and go against the 9 heavens. This was the best era, the most inconceivable era. Qin Feng sometimes couldn't even imagine how rich the heaven and earth origin chi was in this era. One had to know that in the age of chaos, the heaven and earth origin chi could not even condense a heaven and earth origin chi's position. In short, Qin Feng decided that he must find a way to find a high-grade water attribute Fei and open the Abyss Magic Diagram as soon as possible. As a prophet, Qin Feng knew some secrets about heaven and earth origin chi. He knew that there were many ways to attract the favor of the heaven and earth origin chi. One had to know that those who were sleeping in their houses would not become children of fate for no reason. Qin Feng had deduced that if he could open the endless abyss one day earlier, he would have a very high chance of attracting the favor of the heaven and earth origin chi and becoming a child of fate. Chapter 87. What's wrong? Even you can't kill that brat? A green-clothed man stood proudly with his hands behind his back. His aura was like a mountain as he gazed at the bustling scene in the distance. Although his voice was faint, it carried a sense of majesty that seemed to have materialized. Behind him, several old men with solemn faces frowned as they looked at Su Ye and sneered. They all gave off an extremely oppressive aura. This green-clothed man was Guan Qinghe, the current head of the Guan clan, one of the 9 great clans of Shanhe City. After he took over the position of the head of the Guan clan had been on the rise. This also made Guan Qinghe's majestic aura even more respected. Zhuo Song has made his move, the white-clothed woman said indifferently. The few old men looked at each other, their eyes showing that they had expected this. After hesitating for a moment, the white-clothed woman probed. Qinghe, can't we bury the hatchet with Qin Feng? Hearing this, the few elders of the Guan clan raised their heads in surprise. An elder with a gloomy face looked suspiciously at the white-clothed woman and questioned her, without any trace of politeness. Madam Ye, haven't you always advocated cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots? Why have you become soft-hearted after the assassination attempt? Could it be that you're afraid after failing twice? Su Ye's beautiful eyes turned cold. She looked at the elder coldly and said to the green-clothed man, I'm not afraid, but times have changed. Qin Feng has already entered the eyes of all Stars College. Why do we have to be so aggressive? The reason is that Qin Feng and Peng were just fighting over personal feelings. We are a 1,000-year-old clan, and should have the magnanimity of a 1,000-year-old clan. If we continue to pursue this matter, I'm afraid we'll be ridiculed. Madam Ye, you're wrong. Peng is a disciple of our Guan clan. If we don't punish Qin Feng severely, I'm afraid people will think that our Guan clan is afraid. I'm afraid it will damage our Guan clan's reputation. An elder disagreed with Su Ye's opinion. Soft-hearted. A stern-looking elder coldly glanced at Su Ye. His gaze swept across the crowd as he spoke in a deep voice. This brat injured a member of the Guan clan and disregarded the dignity of the Guan clan. He has already committed a capital offense. How can we let a tiger return to the mountain? We should immediately send experts to eliminate them. The great elder is right. Shanhe City is the Shanhe City of the 9 great clans. How dare you attack a member of the Guan clan? You deserve to die. Such a lawless little bastard cannot be allowed to live. Not only are we going to kill them, we are going to kill them with great fanfare to warn those who are ready to make trouble. Mountain River City is ultimately the territory of the 9 great clans. Don't do things that you shouldn't do. Each and every one of the elders' faces were filled with murderous intent, and their murderous intent was about to burst out of their eyes. Su Ye's beautiful eyes flashed with an ugly look. These unruly elders didn't put her in their eyes at all. In the eyes of these elders, she, Su Ye, was an outsider. Guan Qinghe turned around. This was a stern-looking middle-aged man. His face was fair without a beard, and his gaze was like water. When he swept his gaze over, it gave off a deep pressure as if he could see through one's heart. He didn't look at Su Ye's gaze and casually waved his hand. This is just a small matter. He's just an ant at the 4th firmament of the martial path. Just send someone to deal with him. Yes, Patriarch. An elder smiled eerily. His eyes were filled with bloodthirsty killing intent. You can't do anything now. Suddenly, a cold laugh sounded outside the hall. A fat figure walked into the hall. Who is it? Who has the guts to spout such nonsense? Which bastard is it? Everyone glared angrily. However, the moment they saw that figure, they froze and their expressions changed. Zhuo Song, it's you? Zhuo Song, who gave you the guts to barge into the Guan clan? One figure after another flared up in anger, and their eyes turned extremely unfriendly. Burning killing intent flickered. Several Guan family elders secretly discussed among themselves, wondering if they should take this opportunity to kill this president of the Mystic Association who dared to barge into the Guan family's hinterland alone. Guan Qinghe turned around with a hint of surprise in his eyes. He looked coldly at the chuckling fat figure and questioned with a hint of anger in his eyes. Zhuo Song, what do you mean by this? Even if you're the president of the Mystic Association, you can't barge into my Guan clan's residence. If you don't give my Guan clan an explanation today, I'm afraid you won't be able to walk out of the Guan clan's gate today. Zhuosong glanced at the unfriendly elders in the hall before his gaze landed on Guanqinghe. He chuckled. His chubby face was filled with amiability, but his words were not polite. Guanqinghe, you should know best why I'm here. After all, Qin Feng is a member of my mystic association. You'd better give me an explanation for repeatedly sending people to assassinate my mystic association's people. First Elder Guan, you looked coldly at Zhuosong and said disdainfully, Zhuosong, aren't you thinking too highly of yourself? How dare you come to our Guan clan to denounce us? Zhuosong, aren't you afraid that you won't be able to walk out of this gate if you stay here? A few elders flashed over like lightning and surrounded Zhuosong. All of them had disdain and killing intent on their faces. Had this Zhuosong become muddle-headed after living like a prince for so many years? Did he think that he could behave atrociously in the Guan clan just because he had the Mystic Association as his backing? Zhuosong was expressionless. He did not make a move, but his eyes were filled with mockery. The gloomy elder who first advocated killing Qin Feng looked at the surrounded Zhuosong with a smug and sinister look in his eyes. Zhuosong, we're not afraid to tell you that we're definitely going to kill Qin Feng. Who does this yellow-haired brat think he is? How dare he injure our Guan clan's people? Not only will he die, but once we find out his origins, his entire family will be annihilated. All of them will die. His eyes were malevolent and revealed a trace of unscrupulousness. Guanqinghe stood proudly with his hands behind his back, his hawk-like eyes filled with disdain. Zhuosong, did you hear that? This is our Guan clan's explanation to you. Not only will Qin Feng die, but you will also have to pay the price for trespassing into the Guan clan today. However, you're the president of the Mystic Association after all. I won't kill you, but I will cripple your cultivation and break your limbs. You're the president of the Mystic Association's branch after all. Your status is extraordinary. Although our Guan clan has other connections in the Mystic Association, it's indeed troublesome to kill you. Several people surrounded Zhuosong, and countless experts from the Guan clan rushed over after hearing the news. Zhuosong even sensed a powerful aura that was not inferior to his spying on him in the dark. You're indeed lawless. Zhuosong's eyes were as cold as swords. He glanced at the meridian condensation elders surrounding him and nodded. Qin Feng is right. A vicious dog family like yours can't be reasoned with at all. You can only be beaten into submission. Only after a good beating will you restrain the viciousness in your bones and obediently lower your dog heads. Or I can just chop off all your dog heads. Only bleeding will make you afraid and terrified. The moment he finished speaking, Zhuosong's figure suddenly disappeared amidst the shocked expressions of the Guan clan's experts. Following that, an extremely terrifying formation enveloped the entire Guan clan. What is this? Guanqinghe was shocked. His cultivation was the highest among the people present, so he was the first to sense the change. He wanted to stop it. However, it was too late. Rumble. Zhuosong instantly activated the 8 Desolation Annihilation Void ancient formation that he had secretly set up. This ancient mystic formation created by Qin Feng erupted with terrifying power. The entire Guan clan instantly shattered like an invisible mirror. An incomparably violent aura formed a torrent that annihilated the Guan clan. A large formation in the shape of a void mirror could be vaguely seen in the center. As their expressions changed, several meridian condensation elders instantly turned into ashes in the torrent. Countless Guan clan disciples didn't even have time to scream before they were destroyed in the spatial storm. The majestic Guan clan that had stood tall for thousands of years instantly became history. Bang bang bang! The entire formation shook. In the storm, an extremely powerful figure protected a few people from the violent impact. This was an old man with a pale face and eyes filled with shock and anger. His body's aura was majestic, and his silver hair danced in the wind. He erupted with a martial path divine ability that could pierce through the heavens as he attacked the formation, wanting to break out and kill his way out. He was the Guan clan's patriarch, Guan Chuanqiu. Rumble! The terrifying phenomenon alarmed countless experts in Mountain River City. Gazes from all directions converged on the Guan clan's residence. That direction is the Guan clan? In the Qin clan's residence in Mountain River City, the Qin clan's patriarch, who had been in seclusion for a long time, walked out and looked at the region where the storm had erupted with shock. What happened to the Guan clan? Why did the entire Guan clan turn into a spatial storm? Which expert made a move? Who did the Guan clan offend? In the Su clan, an old expert looked at the Guan clan with shock and anger. He was the Su clan's patriarch. The Guan clan and the Su clan were on the same side. In the Ning clan, a short old man who was less than 5 feet tall looked at the streaks of sparkling divine light that had erupted in midair with fear as he solemnly said. This was a large formation, one that had never appeared before. The expert who made a move must be a formation expert. He actually set up a large formation and suppressed the entire Guan clan. He was the Ning clan's patriarch. The Ning clan's patriarch was also a mystic master with great attainments in the mystic formation Tao. The various patriarchs of the 9 great clans looked at the Guan clan that had been completely annihilated by the storm. Their faces were filled with fear. A 1,000-year-old clan had actually turned into smoke overnight. Chapter 88. 3 days later, at the city gate of Shanha City. You are the students who were accepted by Shanha City this year. Follow us. At the city gate, a tall and sturdy silver-white knight spoke with a faint gaze. His tone was filled with an irresistible majesty. He was sitting on an indescribably huge beast. It looked like an ancient golden godly beast. Its scales were ferocious and it emitted a powerful aura. This was a huge beast that contained a trace of the ancient godly beast's bloodline. The ancient Yunling giant tiger was as weak as a baby in front of this beast. There wasn't just one knight like this. At a glance, there were dozens of them. They formed a long line that stretched like a mountain. Smoke and dust were raised. It was a terrifying sight. There was a knight on each huge beast. Behind the knight, on the saddle, stood a young man who looked down with arrogance, surprise, or indifference. These were the young heroes that All Stars College had accepted from other main cities. Each of them had a dignified appearance, and were a gathering of elites. They were not on the same level as the mortal world. These young men's auras were very powerful. They were generally stronger than the 6th level of the martial path. There were even terrifying young men who surpassed the 6th level of the martial path. You little fellows, hurry up. We still have to rush to the nearby Qinghe city. The knight on the huge beast urged. At the city gate there was a crowd of people who came to send them off. Qin Feng walked out of the crowd. Behind him, Qin Shou, Qin Gang, Hong Lian, and the rest looked at him reluctantly. Young master, you have to take care. The little maid Hong Lian pursed her pink lips and was full of reluctance. Little girl, don't be so girly. It's not like we won't meet again. We will meet again in a few months at the Realm of Stars. Qin Feng carried a backpack with an ancient sword at his waist. He looked helplessly at the little maid with misty eyes. Don't worry. Old Manzua is also going to the Realm of Stars to build a mystic association branch there. You all can go together. Old Manzua will send you all safely to the Realm of Stars on our account. Qin Gang, Qin Shou, take good care of Hong Lian. Yes, young master. Compared to the reluctant little lass, Qin Shou and Qin Gang's faces were filled with joy. Young master had entered All Stars College, and the few of them would naturally rise as well. Their future prospects would be limitless. Old Manzua, I'll leave them to you. Qin Feng glanced at the smiling fat old man and said grumpily. Don't worry, little friend Qin. Zuosong promised. He had a big belly and was smiling like a Maitreya. With the help of Qin Feng's 8 Desolation Void Annihilation formation, he had broken through to the Nirvana realm without any mishap. In addition, he had suppressed the Guan clan, one of the 9 great clans, in one fell swoop. Seeing Xuesong's grin, Master Hall rolled his eyes. His mouth twitched and he felt sad in his heart. His gaze fell on Qin Feng, full of resentment. Ever since he saw Xuesong successfully suppressed the ancient Xian formation, opened up his inner world, and became a Nirvana realm powerhouse, Master Hall had been anxiously waiting. However, he couldn't take out anything good to move Qin Feng. Master Hall's heart was itching. If it was someone else, Master Hall would have already forced them to break through to the next realm. However, Qin Feng was different. There was another reason why Master Hall didn't want to become enemies with Qin Feng. He knew that his old friend wouldn't allow him to make a move on Qin Feng. Of course, the most important thing was Qin Feng's performance during this period of time. This was a talented young man. Instead of becoming enemies with this young man, it was better to sincerely befriend him. Perhaps in the future there would be unexpected benefits. Seeing the eager expression on Master Hall's face, Qin Feng was silent for a moment. After a while, he spoke bluntly. Master Hall, I understand what you want. If you really want the ancient Xian formation, you can also come to the capital of stars to find me. At that time, I won't disappoint you. In the end, Qin Feng decided to help Master Hall. Master Hall had helped him a lot in Mountain River City. If possible, Qin Feng didn't mind lending him a hand. This was a huge favor. He believed that Master Hall was also very clear about it. Haha. Little guy, then it's a deal. I will come to the capital of stars to find you. Master Hall was overjoyed. Old man, are you willing to give up the position of president of Mountain River City's Mystic Association? Xuesong curled his lips and glanced at his smug old friend. What's there to be reluctant about? Besides, some time ago, those old guys from the Myriad Stars Academy were begging us. If this old man agrees to go to the Myriad Stars domain, would they dare to slight this old man? Master Hall's gloominess was swept away, and his face was full of pride. The few knights at the side looked at each other with a hint of surprise in their eyes. Xuesong and Master Hall's identities were extraordinary. These two didn't even give face to the higher-ups of All Stars College, so their arrogance was evident. However, they were now chatting and laughing with a young man at the 4th firmament of the martial path. The knights could clearly see that Xuesong and Master Hall's eyes were equal and not condescending. One had to know that previously, several higher-ups of All Stars College had come to visit these two masters, but they were all rejected. Not simple. What's the background of this young man? The knights' eyes met and they were surprised. At this moment, Qin Feng saw a few other young men who were admitted to All Stars College walk out from the crowd one after another. Compared to Qin Feng, who only had a few people send him off, these young men from big clans were immediately much more glorious. Qin Tianjiao, Shui Fei, Zhou Yuxian, Yu Hong, Yu Yao. In Qin Feng's line of sight, Qin Tianjiao and Shui Fei were much more low-key. Qin Feng guessed that the destruction of the Guan family probably sounded the alarm for these big clans that had dominated Shanhe City for thousands of years. These 9 big clans, no, 8 big clans had temporarily restrained themselves. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from the crowd. Qin Feng looked over and saw a few figures that were beyond his expectations. Su Ye, Guan Ruolin. Qin Feng looked in astonishment at the beautiful woman in white who walked out from the crowd, as well as a young girl who was as cold as an ice mountain. The young girl pursed her lips, and her beautiful eyes were somewhat red. Behind her, Su Ye and a young man in purple were helping her carry her bag. These 3 people are really lucky. They actually managed to escape from the killing of the Great Array. Qin Feng glanced at Xuesong, who was frowning. If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Qin Feng naturally didn't know that in order to preserve the last of the Guan family's flame, the ancestor of the Guan family, Guan Qiuqiu, paid the price of self-detonation to send out the last 3 people of the Guan family. Their eyes were scarlet red and filled with an unresolvable hatred. The 3 people of the Guan family also saw Qin Feng and Zhou Song, whose eyes flashed with cold lightning. Troublesome. Qin Feng sighed with a trace of coldness in his eyes. He didn't expect that there would be a tail left behind in the end. Su Ya's beautiful face changed. She saw a flash of coldness in Qin Feng's eyes. She knew that this young man had the intention to kill. She knew very well how terrifying and strange his methods were. The huge Guan clan was indirectly destroyed by this young man. Her own daughter was absolutely not a match for this young man. Su Ya's beautiful eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of pleading. "Are you begging me to spare her life?" Qin Feng's gaze fell on the cold young girl beside the beautiful woman in white. At this moment, the young girl's eyes were filled with hatred. The look in her eyes was unforgettable. "Come up, we are about to set off." The rider on the giant beast urged again. Qin Feng looked at the beautiful woman in white one last time and sneered. He looked at the tall city walls and the majestic Shanhe city. Finally, he stomped his feet and turned into a black shadow, landing on the saddle. "Let's go." Seeing the students of Shanhe city coming up one after another, the silver-white rider shouted loudly. Suddenly, the ground rumbled, and the giant beast spread out its 4 hooves and rushed forward with a loud rumble. The 2nd volume ends here, and the 3rd volume begins. Everyone, happy 1st of June. Good luck to the high school entrance exam and college entrance exam. Chapter 89. In the vast mountain range, the huge beast troop stretched for miles, passing through mountains, lakes, and valleys. Mountain River City was just one of the stops, followed by Clear River City, Withered Leaf City, Iron Ridge City, and dozens of other cities. Along the way, Qin Feng and the rest discovered that All Stars College actually accepted quite a number of students. Every city had at least 1 or 2 people, and at most a dozen people. However, after passing through hundreds of cities, the number of students was extremely impressive. The troop grew larger and larger, reaching close to 1,000 people. Every single one of them was an outstanding talent. Vast and mighty. The troop gradually became lively. "Look, look, that's Iron Ridge City's genius, Lu Kenyang. My God, you don't know, but he's my idol." On the saddle, a chattering young man pointed at a blue-clothed, arrogant young man on another giant beast, who was like a moon surrounded by a myriad of stars, and shouted loudly. This was a 15 to 16-year-old youth, chattering nonstop. Between his words, there was a trace of craftiness in his eyes. With the temperament of a youth, he seemed to be very familiar with the group of youths. This youth was called Zhao Zhijing, and he called himself Little Xi. He came from a city called Yellowstone City in Great Yen Country. He was a know-it-all, and he was very active on the huge beast. "What's Lu Kenyang? Is he very powerful?" On the large saddle where Qin Feng was, dozens of youths gathered. Hearing this, some of them were unconvinced. The youths on the huge beasts were all outstanding talent. As the saying went, there was no first place in literature, and no second place in martial arts. The youths were originally arrogant, and coupled with the fact that they were accepted by All Stars College, how could they be convinced by others? Many of the youths politely declined this kind of news. Don't be unconvinced. Let me tell you, this Lu Kenyang is indeed very powerful. He and the other 4 are called the 5 Great War Gods, and they are known as the 5 strongest people in our generation. Strongest? You're just bragging. The one who spoke was Qin Tianjiao. This purple-clothed youth was cold, and his brows revealed disdain. Many of the youths didn't say anything, but their eyes revealed the same expression. You guys still don't believe me?" Zhao Zhijing lightly snorted and muttered. Let me tell you, although you guys are considered outstanding talents, compared to them, you guys are really suppressed. Seeing the youths shaking their heads, Zhao Zhijing became anxious and shouted, "Let's not talk about background and martial arts talent. Let's talk about cultivation. You should know that the 5 of them are all warriors of the 8th heaven of martial path. Most of us are only at the 6th heaven of martial path. A few of us are at the 7th heaven of martial path. How many of us are at the 8th heaven? And they are not ordinary 8th heavenly layer geniuses. Each of them has the battle record of defeating 9th heavenly layer martial artists." After saying that, Zhao Zhijing proudly raised his head. As expected, there was an uproar on the saddle. 8th heaven of the martial path? A few youths who were sitting on the fishing platform with their eyes closed could no longer sit still. They opened their eyes, revealing astonishment in their eyes. The 8th heaven of the martial path? Damn it, I'm only at the 6th heavenly layer of the martial path. The bottleneck between the 7th heavenly layer and the 6th heavenly layer of the martial path is too thick. I can't break through at all. Hiss, hiss, we actually have such a terrifying genius in our batch. They're so strong. Who will be able to defeat them in the Shui Yu ranking competition? The 8th heaven of the martial path, we really can't catch up to them. Damn it, we actually have such a terrifying existence in our batch. No, we're about to enter the endless ice field and enter the ranking competition. We have to think of a way to deal with them. Why don't we join forces? We can join forces and fight against the enemy together. Agreed. I also agree. On the saddle, the eyes of the group of youths flickered. Their faces were ugly, and a few of them were even gnashing their teeth. Qin Feng, who was sitting in meditation, suddenly opened his eyes. There was a trace of emotion in his eyes as he thought to himself, "The 8th heaven of the martial path. The aptitude of these 5 people is really amazing. No wonder they can suppress all the heroes and have unparalleled momentum. They've caused so many people to be afraid. I'm currently at the peak of the 4th heaven of the martial path, the 2nd tidal wave. Although I can rely on the black tortoise Yin Yang Dao and the concept of wind to kill enemies above my level, I can only deal with ordinary 7th heaven of the martial path. If it's a 7th heaven of the martial path, I'm afraid they'll have to flee. It seems like this batch of students is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. I have to cultivate the 3rd tidal wave as soon as possible and break through to the 5th heaven of the martial path." Qin Feng's eyes were solemn. Seeing that he had stirred up the mood of the group of youths, Zhao Zhijing smiled complacently and released another bombshell. "Let me tell you, Lu Kenyang, Yuan Daozhen, Xiao Yuchan, Li Qiubai, and Du Pingxia are the most promising candidates for the head seat in this batch. Even many of the All-Stars College's experts say that the head seat of this batch will most likely be one of the 5. Zhao Zhijing said with a face full of certainty. "Do you know what the head seat is? He is the boss of all the freshmen in this batch. The best resources in the college and the cave abodes with the most abundant spirit chi will be provided to the head seat first. Moreover, the head seat can exempt himself from all the chores and cultivate wholeheartedly. Unlike the others, not only do they have to study, but they also have to choose chores at the same time. Damn, the head seat's treatment is so good? This isn't fair." A youth cried out. "Idiot, didn't you hear clearly? The head seat is our boss. Naturally, he will have the most resources in the college. All Stars College has the resources to nurture experts, but they don't nurture them. Do you think they will nurture substandard goods? I say, what's the matter with chores? We traveled thousands of miles and went through untold hardships to be accepted by All Stars College, but we still have to do chores? What the hell? We have to choose chores after entering All Stars College? Are you kidding me? My family has plenty of gold and silver. I don't want to do chores. What are you shouting for? Do you think All Stars College is a charity? As for gold and silver, it doesn't matter. All Stars College uses contribution points. If you use gold and silver to exchange, it is said that 100,000 gold taels can only be exchanged for 1 point. How much wealth does your family have? I guarantee that you will go bankrupt. That's right. Where did this country bumpkin come from? What kind of place is the domain of the stars? Every inch of land is worth gold. Gold and silver are only the cheapest currency. Contribution points are the most precious. However, contribution points are very difficult to obtain. You can only obtain a certain amount by completing All Stars College's missions or by making contributions. It is said that the ranking trial is the easiest way for newcomers to obtain contribution points. We must seize this opportunity to earn contribution points. If we lose this opportunity, it will be too late to cry. Qin Feng didn't say anything. He blended into the crowd and listened to the voices of the superior youths. He felt that he had gained a lot and his horizons had been broadened. All Stars College was indeed extraordinary. Like Qin Feng, there were many people secretly eavesdropping on the side. They were all quietly digesting the information they obtained from these youths. Half a month later, the group of giant beasts passed through one station after another, leaving majestic cities behind. With the arrival of winter, the further they went, the lower the temperature became. There were fewer and fewer signs of life. Often, they wouldn't see any signs of life for thousands of miles. There were only ancient forests. Gradually, white snowflakes appeared in their field of vision. Snowy mountains appeared in front of them. The mountain peaks in the distance and the ancient cities nearby were all covered in a vast expanse of white. This is the last station. Prepare yourselves. On the saddle, facing the wind and snow, looking at the majestic ancient city in the distance. The silhouette of the silver-white knight was like a straight javelin. His deep voice reverberated in the wind and snow. The whole world was solemn. Only the knight's voice whistled in the snow along with the cold wind. In Hanwu City, you can make some preparations. Buy some food, clothes, and drinking water. What awaits you is 100 days. It is an extremely difficult endless ice field survival trial. Of course, in many of your mouths, this trial is also called the Snow Domain Trial or the Ranking Trial. It is related to your interests after entering All Stars College. Chapter 90. Cambrian City was very large. It was the only ancient city located on the outskirts of the Snow Domain. It was a miraculous ancient city that stood tall among the endless snowy peaks. Qin Feng shuttled through the ancient city, buying fur jackets that could resist the extreme cold, food that was easy to store, and clean drinking water. At the same time, Qin Feng used his status as an official Xian master to buy information about the Snow Domain Icefield from Cambrian City's Xian Master Association. I never thought that the Snow Domain Icefield was actually an ancient battlefield. In All Stars College, Qin Feng wasn't the only one with such intentions. When Qin Feng returned to the gathering point, he heard many geniuses discussing. Obviously, these people had also obtained some information about the Snow Domain Icefield through various channels. Cambrian City was an ancient city that bordered the Snow Domain Icefield. There was never a lack of myths and legends about this land. In the not-so-spacious gathering point, 3 to 5 youths were gathered in groups. Each of them looked at the endless pure white outside the city, their faces filled with worry. It is said that the Snow Domain Icefield is covered in snow all year round. It is filled with pure white snow all year round, and the temperature is extremely cold. The endless ice mountains and rivers are home to countless fierce ice beasts. This is an extremely mysterious and ancient place. There are even some people who have seen extremely dangerous ancient beasts. Those are mutated beasts that truly possess an ancient bloodline. In terms of battle strength, they are comparable to pulse condensation stage martial artists. The Snow Domain Icefield isn't that mysterious and frightening. It is said that there are some strange secret places left behind by ancient powerhouses. It is said that even pulse condensation stage martial artists would die without a doubt if they encountered those places. It's so dangerous. I heard that this time, we have to walk through the snow domain icefield with our own strength. Heavens, isn't this playing with our lives? The snow domain icefield is boundless, we can't see the end of it. Even if we martial artists have thick skin and aren't afraid of the extreme cold, we still can't withstand such extreme cold weather. It's true. Our ranking trial this time might be to pass through the snowy ice plains and find the entrance to the realm of stars. If that's the case, then our ranking trial this time won't be too difficult. Do you know what the previous ranking trial was? It was a place where we had to pass through the dark forest. What kind of place is the dark forest? It's a famous danger zone in the Blackwater Nation. It's filled with terrifying savage beasts and mysterious alien races that eat people alive as human sacrifices. My big brother is a student of the previous All-Stars College. Do you know how many of them passed the ranking trial? Out of more than 1,000 people, only a few dozen passed the trial. Motherf ***, there were only a few dozen people left from over 1,000 people. Where did the rest go? Don't tell me he's dead. I've never heard of All Stars College's trials being so bloody. No, not passing doesn't mean death. As long as you activate the Myriad Star token and give up on the ranking trial, you will be able to activate the power of the Myriad Star token and obtain its protection. You will not be harmed. However, there are also a few people who are unlucky and are killed before they can say the word, give up. That's not bad. If there's really no other way, we can just give up on the ranking trial. Not bad, my ass. Giving up on the ranking trial is even worse. That's entering All Stars College naked. You might even have to be a contract worker for a few years before you can make a comeback. If you want me to be a contract worker, I might as well find a piece of tofu and kill myself. What kind of logic is this? If you give up on the ranking trial, why do you have to be a contract worker? After you give up, you will know what it means. Hearing the group's discussion, Qin Feng didn't say anything. He found a remote place and fell into deep thought. The Mystic Association had a strong foundation. Through the Mystic Association, Qin Feng had a deeper understanding of the snow ice plains than this group of people. There was indeed an ancient battlefield in the depths of the snow ice plains. Furthermore, it wasn't an ordinary ancient battlefield. It was originally a blessed land with a spirit mountain that housed an extremely ancient and massive sect. Underground, there were several massive spirit veins that protected it. It was a supreme sacred ground. This sect was called the Spirit Void Sect. Later on, for unknown reasons, the Spirit Void Sect was destroyed. There were no records of the exact reason, but it was probably due to an unprecedented calamity. In short, there were unknown dangers in the depths of the snow ice plains. There were even some ancient array formations left behind by the Spirit Void Sect that would kill anyone who touched them. Of course, it was rumored that there were some mysterious treasures inside. According to the records of some experts from the Mystic Association who had ventured deep into the snow ice plains, there were people who had obtained extremely rare spirit herbs, divine weapons, and remnant cultivation techniques from the ruins of the Spirit Void Sect. Qin Feng sat cross-legged as he calculated in his mind. Wisps of inner breath gathered in his meridians and flowed like a tide. This was the most mystical thing about the connate chaotic unity law. Although it didn't have any attributes, it was stable and didn't fear any disturbances. Once awakened, one could wake up at any time. There was the danger of losing one's qi. This also meant that Qin Feng could use his inner breath to cultivate at any time. The connate chaotic unity law was condensed again and again until it had a liquid quality. The inner breath formed a tide that flowed wave after wave. The first wave, the second wave, and the connate chaotic unity law became thicker and thicker. By the third wave, his inner breath had reached a peak. Qin Feng mustered all his strength, but the next moment, he felt a piercing pain in his meridians as though they were about to shatter. His inner breath was forced to retreat. The limit of the fourth firmament of the martial path was 3 waves. Now, Qin Feng's 2 waves were gradually reaching the limit. After several attempts, Qin Feng was still struggling. It's still not enough. I estimate that I will need a few more days to break through 3 waves. By then, I might be able to attempt the 5th firmament of the martial path. Once I successfully reach the 5th firmament of the martial path, I can even attempt to kill a 7th firmament martial artist. With a look of regret, Qin Feng endured the discomfort in his meridians. The black tortoise divine pill in his dantian vibrated, releasing wisps of medicinal essence to nourish and restore his meridians. The Khanate Chaotic Unity Law was a top-notch martial path foundation establishment secret technique. It was known as the Heavenly Foundation Establishment Secret Technique, the number 1 foundation. This martial art was easy to learn, but difficult to master. The limit was 9 tides. Once mastered, one's strength would be almost limitless, and one's foundation would be sturdy and unparalleled. However, this martial art was extremely difficult to master. This was because cultivating this technique could easily damage one's meridians and required the assistance of many spirit herbs. Furthermore, the pain of the tidal inner breath attacking the meridians was not something an ordinary person could withstand. Therefore, it was known as the most difficult martial path foundation establishment secret technique to cultivate. Without great luck, great wisdom, and great perseverance, one could not cultivate it. Once cultivated, one's foundation would be so strong that it would reach an inconceivable realm. The meridian's condensation realm would be within reach. Its potential was limitless, and it was known as having the foundation of a fiend god. If Qin Feng did not have the black tortoise divine pill in his body, he would not have chosen this martial path foundation establishment secret technique. You're that Qin Feng who relied on the prestige of the Mystic Association to intimidate others and exterminate Guan Ruolan's entire clan. You look very ordinary, putting on airs, but your heart is so vicious? Just as Qin Feng was seizing the time to cultivate, an ear-piercing voice suddenly sounded. Qin Feng raised his head and opened his eyes. Not far away, a dozen figures squeezed through the crowd and appeared in front of him. The person in the lead was a youth dressed in brocade clothes with an arrogant face. He was currently sizing up Qin Feng with a scrutinizing gaze. Beside him, there was a figure that Qin Feng was familiar with standing in a slightly intimate manner. It was a cold and beautiful girl with eyes as cold as ice and eyes filled with bone-deep hatred. She was Guan Ruolan, whose entire clan was exterminated by Qin Feng. Chapter 91. This was an extraordinary young man with a strong aura. He was at the peak of the 6th firmament of the martial path, and was only 1 step away from connecting to the bridge of heaven and earth and entering the Xiantian realm. Qin Feng knew that his name was Xuanning from the way people addressed him. He was an extremely conceited and powerful genius in this batch of all-stars college students. He was very famous. There were hundreds of students standing in the open space, and they all turned to look at Xuanning. Their gazes fell on Qin Feng, who was dressed in black. First impressions were the strongest, and many of them couldn't help but imagine a vengeful, cruel, and sinister young man. Kacha, Kacha! Qin Feng stood up, the bones in his body crackling. Qin Feng tilted his head and looked at Xuanning, rubbing his sore palms. Qin Feng was extremely impatient with these so-called geniuses who were mesmerized by beauty, and his tone was as if he was chasing away flies. You want to stand up for her? You have the ability to be at the peak of the 6th firmament of the martial path. But to deal with an idiot like you who is mesmerized by beauty, even if I stand still, I can still break your legs. What a reckless little bastard. You talk big. Fine, I'll teach you a lesson today and teach you how to be a person. Xuanning stood with his hands behind his back, and his tone was extremely cold. Xuanning's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and in the next moment, he moved instantly, turning into a gust of wind as he pounced forward and swept his leg. Shadows of his legs covered the sky as they bombarded Qin Feng. It was as if lightning had passed through the sky, and there were even traces of dangerous azure lightning in the sky. Lightning flashed through the air like a sudden clap of thunder. Xuanning had actually connected to a trace of the power of lightning. This was a unique ability of the seventh firmament of the martial path. Xuanning was already half a step into the Xiantian realm. He just had to wait for a while, and he would definitely be able to break through to the Xiantian realm. A few youths at the seventh firmament of the martial path from afar couldn't help but change their expressions, and a trace of fear flashed in their eyes. Even they wouldn't be able to withstand such a terrifying leg technique. Xuanning's eyes were filled with pride as she pounced forward, unable to hide her viciousness. Qin Feng felt a sense of danger as he frowned. Xuanning had a thunder attribute physique, just like he had in his previous life. The thunder attribute was one of the most powerful attributes among the mutated attribute. After breaking through to the Xiantian realm, one would be able to attract a trace of the power of heaven and earth's lightning, and its destructive power was extremely strong. If you want to teach me a lesson, I'll teach you a lesson first. Qin Feng sneered. His body moved instantly. His body was like a cannonball. Instead of retreating, he charged forward and collided with the shadows of the kicks in the sky. In his previous life, he was a half-step lightning Dao demon god. He was the ancestor of using the heaven and earth lightning. You're courting death. Seeing Qin Feng advancing instead of retreating, Xuanning's eyes flashed with cruel excitement. Qin Feng must be out of his mind to try to take his ultimate move, the wind thunder chain kick head-on. One had to know that his leg technique contained a trace of the most explosive power of lightning in the world. Ha ha! Xuanning couldn't help but smile when she thought about how she was about to see Qin Feng being kicked like a dead dog. But the next moment, the smile on Xuanning's face froze. Bang! It was as if he had kicked an iron plate. Crack! The sound of bones breaking could be heard. Ah! Xuanning let out an earth-shattering scream. The intense pain caused him to fall to the ground instantly. He hugged his leg and screamed. Boom! Qin Feng took a few steps back. His body was like a tyrannosaurus, leaving a deep mark on the ground. But what made the youth's eyes bulge was that Qin Feng was unharmed. This scene was too shocking. A martial artist at the peak of the sixth firmament of martial arts had used his strongest technique to kill a martial artist at the peak of the fourth firmament of martial arts. Not only did he not injure the latter, but he also broke his own leg. What's wrong with Xuanning? Isn't he the strongest below the innate stage? Could it be that he's been playing with too many women and has become a softy? Some people looked at the scene in disbelief, their jaws dropping to the ground. This Qin Feng has cultivated some special body refining technique. His body is so scary. He's unharmed after such a powerful leg technique, and he even broke Xuanning's leg. A knowledgeable genius saw the flash of green light on Qin Feng's body. What a crazy body! In the dark, a few powerhouses from All Stars College exchanged glances with each other, their eyes filled with shock. Young Master Xue is so pitiful. Look, he's in so much pain that he's crying. I heard the sound of bones breaking just now. That sound is so unbearable. Xuanning went for wool and came home shorn. He wanted to show off his muscles in front of that ice beauty, but now he's crippled himself. Acting tough failed. This brat could show off anything in front of a beauty, why did he have to show off his muscles? Now, he's been beaten to a pulp. I think he can only give up the Star Academy's training and obediently work as a contract worker for a few years. A slave? How shameful! In the crowd, Guan Ruolin's face turned red and white. Listening to the whispers around her, Guan Ruolin was furious. Ouch! I overestimated myself. Although Qin Feng was expressionless, his arms were numb and his bones were sore. Even though he had accidentally cultivated the Black Tortoise Sea suppressing fist to the Deshang level a few days ago, and his muscles and bones were like a tortoise's shell, he couldn't help but feel exhausted. The Xiantian mixed element Qi was circulating in his meridians, and the soreness gradually disappeared. The Black Tortoise Yin-Yang art was a true martial-level fist technique. It was composed of two fist techniques, the Black Tortoise Sea suppressing fist and the Spirit Snake Demon fist. Qin Feng had only managed to cultivate the Spirit Snake Demon fist to the Deshang level. Because its nature was not compatible with the Black Tortoise, the progress of the Black Tortoise Sea suppressing fist was extremely slow. Only a few days ago did he manage to reach the Deshang level. The moment the Black Tortoise Sea suppressing fist reached the Deshang level, Qin Feng was like a human-shaped black tortoise. His defense was terrifyingly strong, and the hidden force formed was like a seal, like the Yin-Yang 8 trigrams. It even had the property of reflecting force. Now that he had tried it out, Qin Feng was pleasantly surprised. The Xiantian mixed element Qi was slowly dispelling the soreness in his meridians. Qin Feng estimated that at this moment, only a martial artist who had reached the Xiantian level could break the hidden force formed by the Black Tortoise Sea suppressing fist and injure him. Xuenning's face was red with shame and anger. She endured the pain and crawled up from the ground. Without saying a word, she left dejectedly with the help of a few loyal followers. But before she left, she looked at Qin Feng with a gaze filled with hatred that seeped into her bones. Guan Ruolin also left. The mountain she relied on for support had collapsed. Her face was burning hot. Before she left, she turned around and looked at Qin Feng with a cold gaze. The hatred in her eyes was so strong that it was almost tangible. Qin Feng's eyes were cold. If it wasn't for the fact that there were experts from All Stars College watching from the dark and forbidding killing, he would have already killed the two of them. Looking at Guan Ruolin's departing figure, a 15 or 16-year-old girl, at the age of a flower, her figure was in full bloom. She had a cold and beautiful face, jet-black hair, a graceful figure, and a graceful posture. Many people looked at her strangely for many years. Qin Feng couldn't help but think of Suya's mature and charming style. Suya was one of the top 10 beauties in the Great Yen Kingdom. In terms of looks and style, she was definitely not something a little girl could compare to. Qin Feng had seen Suya's beautiful body with his own eyes. If she gained a little weight, she would be fat, and if she lost a little weight, she would be thin. She was truly the belle spirit of heaven and earth. Wait until we enter the snow region. I must completely solve this problem. Chapter 92. Strands of primordial chaos Qi flowed in his meridians, gradually dispelling the soreness. Qin Feng rubbed his sore wrist, and had a clear idea in his heart. At this moment, although he was not afraid of the experts at the peak of the sixth heaven of martial arts, he was still not strong enough to compete with the warriors of the primordial realm. But I've reached the entry level of wind essence, so it's impossible for the primordial realm warriors to kill me. But that's not enough. I have to find a way to break through the primordial realm as soon as possible. Fortunately, I've already comprehended the essence of essence, so there's no bottleneck for me. As long as the 9 tides of primordial chaos Qi is complete, I'll be able to break through the primordial chaos Qi. Qin Feng frowned. He did not care about the surprised gazes that landed on him one after another. But if I cultivate step by step, even if I have enough essence-quenching pills, I'm afraid it'll take a long time. Qin Feng was distressed. There were many famous young warriors in this ranking trial. If he couldn't break through to the primordial realm, even if he entered All Stars College, it would be difficult for him to obtain the first seat. That's right, I almost forgot something important. That's a huge benefit. How could I forget it? Not knowing what he had thought of, Qin Feng's tensed brows suddenly relaxed and a smile appeared on his face. Qin Feng, Xuanning is also a little famous, but she was defeated by you. You hid it well. The one who spoke was Zhao Zhijing. After Xuanning left, he came forward and said with a slightly flattering tone. So it's little brother Zhi. Qin Feng regained his senses and smiled. Zhao Zhijing was a well-known know-it-all in All Stars College. Almost everyone knew him. Zhao Zhijing looked around, then approached Qin Feng and whispered. Qin Feng, you have to be careful. Xuanning was defeated by you, but this person will probably hold a grudge against you. Xuanning has an extremely talented cousin called Lu Qinghe. Lu Qinghe is a seventh sky of martial arts late primordial realm warrior. He's very domineering. You injured Xuanning, so I'm afraid he'll attack you. The innate realm of the seventh heaven of martial arts. Qin Feng's face turned gloomy. Thank you for telling me, brother Xiao Zhi. Qin Feng cupped his hands towards Zhao Zhijing. Zhao Zhijing nodded his head. Seeing that someone was looking in their direction, a trace of fear flashed across Zhao Zhijing's face. He hurriedly walked away. At the gathering place, more and more people gathered as the time set by All Stars College's experts arrived. Most of them were in groups of 3 to 5 and were carrying bags. Qin Feng saw the hot favorites for this year's All Stars College, the 5 young men and women who were known as the 5 war gods. The 5 of them had an extraordinary bearing. They were surrounded by a large entourage and looked very impressive. The 5 of them each occupied a large piece of land and gathered a group of people. They were like cranes in a flock of chickens, standing on equal footing. Their gazes occasionally intertwined with each other, filled with the glint of blades and shadows of swords. Many people went up to greet them, intending to get familiar with them. However, Qin Feng saw that although the 5 of them were polite and would occasionally return the greetings, their gazes were actually arrogant. They didn't think highly of anyone. Qin Feng knew a few people from Shanhe City. Other than Qin Feng and the mysterious Li Zhuang, the others all went up to greet them with a humble attitude. For example, Qin Tianjiao and Xue Fei chose to stay in Xiao Yuchan's camp. The 2 of them looked at Qin Feng with extremely cold and hostile gazes. Yu Hong, Yu Yao, and Zhou Yuxian chose to stay in Du Pingxia's camp. Before Yu Yao left, she looked at Qin Feng calmly and said, Qin Feng, although you have repeatedly surprised people with your actions, and I admit that I, Yu Yao, have underestimated you, you have miscalculated this matter. Although you defeated Xuanning and looked proud for a moment, you actually made a wrong move. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. You have already aroused the fear of many people. Once you enter the snowfield-icefield, they will definitely take action against you first and eliminate a strong opponent like you. Yu Yao glanced at the indifferent Qin Feng and smiled coldly. You may not know, but there are already many people watching you. As far as I know, Lu Qinghe has already spread the word that he wants to avenge Xuanning. After you enter the snowfield-icefield, he will find you first. Lu Qinghe is the right-hand man of Lu Kenyang, one of the 5 war gods. Lu Kenyang will not let you go. Now, Qin Tianjiao and Xue Fei are stirring up trouble on Xiao Yuchan's side. If you meet Xiao Yuchan's people, they will not let you have an easy time. The best way for you now is to find a backer. Sister Du Pingxia is a martial Dao realm 8th heaven expert. For my sake, if you are willing to rely on her, she may take you in and save your life. No need. Qin Feng raised his eyebrows and smiled coldly. You'd better take care of yourself. Qin Feng, I hope you know what's good for you. Yu Yao glanced at Qin Feng with pity. Her gaze carried a trace of a sigh, as if Qin Feng's fate was already decided. You don't know what's good for you. Seeing Yu Yao return alone, a black-clothed girl with sharp eyebrows beside Du Pingxia snorted coldly. Her eyes flashed with a trace of hostility. Many people saw this scene, and some of them could not help but sneer. Lu Qinghe, who was beside Lu Kenyang, stepped forward and said to Qin Feng, "You won't live for more than 3 days." At this moment, a figure appeared in the field. It was a knight wearing silver-scaled white armor. His figure was straight, like a sharp sword, and his aura was like that of a demon god. He attracted everyone's attention as soon as he appeared. This was an expert from All Stars College. The silver-white knights surrounded him like javelins. He was like the bright moon in the sky, and his aura was dazzling. The thousands of students on the field stopped their discussion and quieted down. Very good. Next, I will explain the ranking trials rules. Please listen carefully. The silver-white knight's eyes were indifferent, like the boundless stars. His face was handsome, but the vicissitudes in his eyes could not be concealed. He began to announce the trial's mission. All Stars College's trials rules are as follows. This trial's location: snowy tundra. Trial's mission: pass through the snowy tundra, break through the 9 heavenly trials, and independently find the entrance to the All Stars domain. Enter the entrance to the All Stars domain within the specified time, and the trial will be considered a success. Trial's duration: 100 days. With the silver-white knight's announcement, many students who were tense suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. If it was just passing through the snowy tundra, it was not particularly difficult. At least, it was much better than the death-seeking trial in the dark forest. But what was the 9 heavenly trials? The silver-white knight glanced at the relaxed youths, and a strange smile suddenly flashed in his eyes. Qin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He knew that the 9 heavenly trials were not that simple. The silver-white knight did not explain and just said with a strange smile, "I believe that many of you must want to know the information about the 9 heavenly trials. But don't worry, you will know soon. At that time, I believe you will receive a big surprise. Now you can set off. The first trial in the snowy tundra is waiting for you." Chapter 93. The Snow Domain Trial officially began. Half a day later, the first trial of the 9 heavenly gates appeared in front of everyone. Rumble! A huge waterfall poured down, and the water roared like thunder. This was a long and narrow glacier valley, with huge snowy mountains on both sides like sharp swords. A snow-white river surged like a flying dragon. Thousands of students walked in the glacier valley, rushing in the direction of the waterfall. The scene was spectacular. This is the first trial, the Sacred Spring Palace. In the crowd, Qin Feng raised his head and looked at the roaring waterfall in the distance. A slight ripple appeared in his calm eyes, and he couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise. This is indeed a huge surprise. Beside him, there was a handsome youth with a pale face, looking at the huge waterfall that was hundreds of feet high and had a flat bottom. He looked young and inexperienced, about 15 or 16 years old. He wore a crown made of thorns, and his clothes were simple. There was a trace of worry on his tanned face. He was the only student from Shanhe City who didn't come from an aristocratic family. They were both from Shanhe City and had the same illustrious background. Li Zhuang was the only one who was willing to get close to Qin Feng after Qin Feng had offended Lu Qinghe. Qin Feng raised his head and saw the 1,000-layer waterfall pouring down from the sky. Looking from afar, it was magnificent and majestic. The waterfall that went straight into the clouds seemed to have a hole in the sky, and the endless water of the Milky Way fell into the deep pool at the bottom of the valley, stirring up tens of thousands of waves. According to the experts of All Stars College, the first trial of the 9 heavenly gates, the Sacred Spring Palace, was above the waterfall. It had been half a day since the trial officially began, and most of the students had gradually sensed the location of the waterfall. Looking at the majestic waterfall, the students' faces were gloomy. This waterfall is hundreds of feet high and hundreds of feet wide. How can we go up? Even if we have a strong body, opened the divine treasures in our bodies, and extended our meridians, we can only fly a few dozen feet in one breath. We might not even be able to go against some small waterfalls that are dozens of feet long, let alone this terrifying waterfall that is no different from the Dragon Gate. The torrents of water that are pouring down together are extremely heavy. Even if one is at the connate realm and has connected with the heaven and earth bridge, controlling a trace of the power of heaven and earth, he may not be able to rush up such a terrifying waterfall. There was a legend in the Spirit Sea continent. It was said that there was a Dragon Gate waterfall at the source of all rivers. Any water tribe member with a trace of true dragon bloodline would be able to reverse their bloodline and become a true dragon after crossing this waterfall. Then what should we do? Can we climb up from the other side of the snow mountain? Someone suggested. Someone next to him immediately denied his idea. No, we don't have a choice. If we want to pass the first stage, we have to go against the waterfall. Only by entering the Holy Spring Palace can you get the first token. Then how do we get there? Everyone, calm down. The first trial is the easiest of the 9 heaven trials. I believe it won't be too difficult. At the edge of the empty pool, a group of students discussed animatedly. One by one, they looked at the curtain that went straight into the blue clouds, trying to see if the waterfall was real or not. Some of the youths looked calm as they thought hard, hoping to see through the intention of All Stars College. Qin Feng had been observing with cold eyes the entire time. He saw that while most of the youths were still thinking, there were a very small number of people who had a well-thought-out appearance. Among them, there were the 5 youths who had the highest reputation and were known as the 5 War God. There were also some youths from prominent families. They stood proudly with their hands clasped behind their back. Their eyes were calm and confident, like cranes in a flock of chickens. It seems like this group of people has seen through the secret of this waterfall, Qin Feng guessed in his heart. He looked at the waterfall that went straight into the blue clouds. In fact, he already had some guesses about the origin of this waterfall. While the students in the valley were discussing animatedly, the group of students didn't know that there were a few silver-white figures in the sky looking at them with strange expressions. The few figures were walking on the void as if they were walking on flat ground. There were a few voices talking. It seems like there are quite a few good seedlings in this batch. Someone has already seen through the secret of this small Dragon Gate waterfall. That youth called Yuan Daojian is very interesting. He seems to have cultivated the Sacred Sword Spirit Refining Art? Sacred Sword Spirit Refining Art. It's an ancient battle art that uses one's own body as a battle sword to cultivate. TSK, this brat is really daring. You have to know that those who cultivate this ancient battle art don't have a good ending. 9 out of 10 of them go crazy. That Liu Kenyang isn't bad either. The Liu family is a large family with a long history. They are a feudal family of a large province. Their unique secret technique, Battle Heaven Transforming Qi, is unparalleled. It is a secret technique that isn't inferior to our All Stars College's top-notch true inheritance. It can digest anything it swallows and transform it into battle qi. The more it fights, the stronger it becomes. Liu Kenyang seems to have mastered this secret technique. Xiao Yuchan also seems to have a secret. His eyebrows are overflowing with purple intent. He has a noble bearing and extraordinary talent. He seems to have cultivated an ancient technique called the 3-flower purple qi art. The 3-flower gathering crown, purple qi gathering origin, and purple qi gathering origin. The innate purple qi is both offensive and defensive. It is very difficult to deal with. If he cultivates the 3-flower gathering crown, his purple qi will be 30,000 miles long. He will be qualified to seek the Tao of Dawn. That Li Qiubai isn't ordinary either. He was born with a sword bone and his sword qi is overwhelming. The little princess of the Du family, Du Pingxia, is even more impressive. The Du family was originally the royal family of the Great Yin dynasty. The Du family's ultimate technique, the 7-color glaze art, has 7 colors of the rainbow and the profoundness of heaven and earth. Du Pingxia is the most beloved daughter of the current Great Yin dynasty's king. She also has the 7 wonders godly demon body that is hard to come by in 1,000 years. It is a divine body that far surpasses the 12th grade martial arts talent. Moreover, her 7-color glaze art has been perfected. When the 7 colors are used, she can easily kill people of the same level. This batch of trials is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There are endless geniuses like this. It seems that in a few years, my Xingqian school's 28 mansions Star Peak will have many more disciples. Don't be too optimistic. This trial isn't simple. Take this glacier waterfall as an example. This glacier waterfall is one of the largest waterfalls in the snow region. It is thousands of feet high and is shaped like an ancient sacred mountain. Not only is the water of the glacier extremely cold, it is also extremely resistant. Even if someone in the meridian's condensation realm wants to go against the current, it would be very difficult. They are just a bunch of brats at the 9th celestial layer of the martial path. Looking down from above, the Silver Knight coldly snorted and sneered as he looked down at the numerous students who were discussing the trial. The Silver Knight was the person in charge of this trial for All Stars College. Beside him was a young man in a white robe with black hair and large sleeves. This young man had a calm demeanor. His hair was messy and hung behind his waist. His handsome face had a trace of laziness. He looked very calm and relaxed, giving people a very comfortable feeling. Beside this young man were a few other figures. Their auras weren't any weaker than these few people. One of them was a haggard and sloppy old man in snow-white silk with his sleeves smeared with oil. He had a gourd at his waist and occasionally took a sip from it. The other was a tall and slender woman dressed in a fiery red robe. Her face was covered with a veil. Senior Yu yawned and lazily glanced at the Silver Knight, who had a serious expression on his face. He tilted his head and pursed his lips. Junior brother Jiang Fei, don't be like that. It's boring. Seeing the Silver Knight's cold expression, the young man felt bored and immediately shook his head. You and I both know the details of this small Dragon Gates waterfall. In fact, this 9 heavenly snow pass was originally used by the Spirit Void sect to test their disciples. However, we made some slight changes to use it as the trial for All Stars College's ranking. If we really want to talk about it, the snow domain trial this time is indeed quite difficult. Compared to the entrance trials of many large sects, the requirements are only higher. However, as the first trial, the Sacred Spring Palace, is the easiest of the 9 trials. This trial isn't difficult at all. In fact, this ice river waterfall is also known as the heart-refining waterfall. It is mainly used to screen if demons have infiltrated the sect. As long as they aren't demons or have demon blood in their bodies, I believe that with the aptitude of these young fellows, most of them will be able to pass this trial smoothly. The hard part is the second trial, the Ice River Palace. Chapter 94. Qin Feng held the ancient sword, his messy black hair draped over his shoulders as he stood on top of a rock. Not far away, the waterfall was like a sudden clap of thunder. Tens of thousands of flying waves poured down in torrents, giving off a deafening roar. Qin Feng's eyes glowed as he thought to himself, if I'm not wrong, the function of this waterfall should be similar to the heart-tempering array or the heart-tempering path set up by some sections. It should be used to screen out people with ulterior motives. Although Qin Feng didn't know much about the Spirit Ruins sect, Qin Feng knew from experience that the first round of most sects' trials was a test of one's heart or a tempering of one's heart. This was to ensure the purity of the sect. Test out people with ulterior motives. All Stars College might be known for its non-discrimination education, but it should have similar methods. Of course, the most important thing was that Qin Feng smelled a scent similar to the heart-tempering array in the Ice River waterfall. Although Qin Feng had his suspicions, he didn't rush up rashly. In the Ice Valley there were already people flying up. The first one to rush into the waterfall was Lu Canyang. Since no one is willing to make a move, I, Lu Canyang, will not decline. Amidst the cold laughter, under everyone's gaze, Lu Canyang's figure flashed. Like a cannonball, he instantly plunged into the waterfall. What was surprising was that his body was not washed away by the tens of thousands of waves. His figure actually remained within the thick and terrifying waterfall. Lu Canyang closed his eyes as a faint brilliance circulated around his body. His body endured the impact of the waves without feeling anything. It was as if the huge force was leaking out of thin air. After 9 breaths, Lu Canyang opened his eyes. A blazing radiance shot out from his eyes as he opened his mouth and let out a long roar. Rumble! The long roar was like a clap of thunder that suppressed the roar of the waterfall for a moment. Everyone, I'm temporarily in the lead for the first round. With a loud laugh, Lu Canyang's figure turned into a stream of light that shot up into the sky. He broke through the waves and went against the flow, straight into the clouds. While everyone was still in shock, Lu Canyang took the lead and rushed into the Holy Spring Palace. Since Brother Lu has already taken the lead, then Yu-chan can't fall behind. Amidst the faint laughter and while most of the students in the valley were shocked, another figure walked out. This was a handsome young man in white who was as handsome as the bright moon in the sky. He was about 15 or 16 years old and was dressed in white. There was a cinnabar dot between his eyebrows. His lips were red and his teeth were white. His appearance was like Pan An's. If one didn't look closely, they would think that he was a peerless beauty. It was hard to imagine that there was such a handsome man in the world. He was Xiao Yu-chan, one of the 5 strongest students in this batch. Xiao Yu-chan was one of the 5 great war gods, so there were many people paying attention to him. When they saw him come out, everyone's gazes landed on him. His eyebrows were sword-like and his eyes were starry. A speck of purple chi overflowed from him. With a stomp of his foot, he actually stepped into the air step by step. His feet bloomed as if a great path of purple chi had appeared out of thin air. Seeing this scene, Lu Qinghe narrowed his eyes. Connate purple chi 30,000 li, 3-flowered purple chi art. This Xiao Yu-chan actually cultivated this cultivation technique. This 3-flowered purple chi art is one of the top Martial Tao Foundation establishment cultivation technique. It has as many as 12 levels. In terms of chi purity, it's a far cry from ordinary Martial Tao Foundation establishment cultivation technique. The connate purple chi is especially beneficial for comprehending the heaven and earth seed and raising its grade. This 3-flowered purple chi art is actually a top Martial Tao Foundation establishment cultivation technique. By the side, Qin Tianjiao frowned as her eyes revealed a trace of discomfort. What a powerful chi! As expected of a top Martial Tao Foundation establishment cultivation technique. Xue Fei's eyes flashed with a trace of amazement. As everyone knew, the 9 heavens of Martial Tao was the level of Martial Tao Foundation establishment. Ordinary Martial Tao Foundation establishment cultivation techniques usually had 9 levels that corresponded to the 9 heavens of Martial Tao. However, Qin Tianjiao, Xue Fei, and other disciples from aristocratic families knew that this was only an ordinary Martial Tao Foundation establishment cultivation technique. Typically, a top Martial Tao Foundation establishment cultivation technique would exceed 9 levels. The cultivation technique that the 2 of them cultivated had 10 levels and could barely be considered a top Martial Tao Foundation establishment cultivation technique. However, compared to the 12th level 3-flowered purple chi art, it was far inferior. It was rumored that the top Martial Dao Foundation establishment cultivation technique had 13 levels. 8 breaths later, Xiao Yuchan's body flashed with brilliance and similarly disappeared into the water curtain. The time he used was actually 1 breath less than Lu Canyang. Immediately following that, Li Qiubai and Yuan Daozhen attacked almost simultaneously. The two of them transformed into a straight formless sword qi and blasted at the water curtain like 2 rainbows, transforming their bodies into swords. These two people have chosen to use sword qi to forge their martial Dao foundation. They abandoned their own attributes and chose the path of the sword Dao. I wonder what cultivation technique they cultivated. However, looking at the surging sword qi brilliance, it must be an extremely top martial Dao foundation establishment cultivation technique. Seeing the two's performance, the eyes of some knowledgeable youths flickered rapidly. Every sword cultivator's combat prowess was extraordinarily strong. They were known as the kings of their peers. Sacred sword soul refining art. Qin Feng's eyes were filled with brilliance. Qin Feng's vision was broad, and the cultivation techniques hidden deep in his mind were as vast as smoke. He could see the essence of the sword qi on Yuan Daozhen's body at first glance. Only the sword qi cultivated by the sacred sword soul refining art could be so pure. The sacred sword soul refining art was the same as his innate mixed vitality qi. It was also a top martial Dao foundation establishment cultivation technique with 13 levels. However, as a top martial Dao foundation establishment cultivation technique, just like his innate mixed vitality qi, there were also great restrictions if one wanted to successfully cultivate it. Cultivating the innate mixed vitality qi required countless spiritual herbs. The sacred sword soul refining art's requirements were even harsher. It required one to endure extreme and indescribable pain and use one's body as a combat sword. The pain of sword qi entering one's body was comparable to being sliced into pieces and being skinned and corroded. Since the beginning of time, 9 out of 10 people who cultivated this cultivation technique were driven mad by the excruciating pain. Yuan Daozhen was already an 8th heavenly layer martial Dao expert, and he must have already cultivated to the 8th heavenly layer. The pain he endured from the sword qi entering his body was unimaginable. Qin Feng's eyes flashed with amazement as he sighed. Qin Feng's gaze then landed on Li Qiubai. Li Qiubai was also a sword qi foundation establishment cultivator, and he was also cultivating a top-tier martial Dao foundation establishment cultivation technique. However, in Qin Feng's spiritual perception, Li Qiubai's sword qi was not as pure and sharp as Yuan Daozhen's sword qi. Instead, it had an ethereal and mysterious aura. In terms of sword qi, the quality of the two was similar, but Qin Feng was sure that if the two of them were to fight head-on, the one who would die would definitely be Li Qiubai. Li Qiubai and Yuan Daozhen used 8 breaths of time to enter the sacred spring palace at almost the same time. Du Pingxia also made her move. She was a beautiful girl dressed in men's clothing, and she looked like a noble young master. Her brows were filled with nobility, and her actions were elegant as if she was a descendant of the heavens. 9 breaths of time later, Du Pingxia turned into a rainbow light and went against the flow of the waterfall, after the 5 war gods took the lead and entered the sacred spring palace. The geniuses could no longer hold themselves back, and countless figures shot into the sky and rushed into the 9 heavens waterfall. Rays of light shot into the sky and soared into the sky. Qin Feng stood on top of the boulder as he stared at this majestic scene. Figures shot into the sky like meteors, and sometimes there were dozens of meteors that shot into the sky at the same time. Sometimes there were hundreds of meteors that flew by, and it was a spectacular scene. Lu Qinghe's body was like a star, and he broke through the sky in 10 breaths of time. Qin Mubai's body was like a white rainbow, and he broke through the sky in 11 breaths of time. Lu Han's body was like a green shadow, and she broke through the barrier in 12 breaths of time and entered the sacred spring palace. Qin Feng saw Lu Qinghe's cold and cruel eyes when he flew up, and he also saw Qin Tianjiao and Xue Fei's figures breaking through the sky. He also saw Yu Yao's proud eyes when she turned into a golden rainbow and flew against the flow of the waterfall. He saw Li Zhuang's encouraging eyes when he flew up. He saw Guan Ruolin's hatred and coldness that surpassed countless swords. He saw countless proud, arrogant, indifferent, and calm youths disappear into the waterfall. After half a day, there were less than 100 people left in the ice valley, and most of them were at the fourth heavenly layer of the martial path. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Feng also walked out. However, to the surprise of the remaining youths, Qin Feng didn't rush into the waterfall. Instead, he grinned, stretched his body, and with a splash, jumped into the river. "I'll let you guys take the lead for now, and I'll level up first." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.